guest speaker, Mr. Ronak Brahmbhatt, would like to convey or few things about GNF, because there are so many non-GNF family members also join this call. Okay. So GNF is basically a registered non-profit organization in US, and we are working in the educational as well as social field. We started this as a WhatsApp group in 2015 and as an organization in 2020. So we registered GNF in 2020 in the state of New Jersey. Our 500 members are spread within the 15 countries in the world and in all 5 continents. And just to give some updates, in the past, we have done some video conferencing with ZP schools, teachers, students, parents, and prominent leaders to interact with them, to educate them, to inspire them, and motivate them. So this is the work we have done in ZP school. We also conducted some English improvement program for ZP teachers, and the reason to mention this now is we are also implementing our new EIP 2023 program, which we are launching in March 1st. So we request all of you to join as our volunteers, join as tutor or join as admin, but please come forward and help us in all possible ways. Because last time we have seen very good response from the teachers and as well as the tutors and the admins. So total 170 teachers got benefited, 80 tutors was there, and 15 admins were there. So total it's 250 people's engagement for the last program. So I request come forward and join as a volunteer. So now about the speaker, Mr. Ronak Brahmbhatt is a CPA, certified public accountant, then CFA, chartered financial accountant, and EA, enrolled agent, federally authorized tax practitioner. And he is working with Capital Excellier and Henderson Partners. So I will request him to give his complete introduction, of course. And just to give you update, like today's call will be in English as well as Hindi, because the speaker Ronak don't understand Marathi. And the overall format is basically I will ask a generic questions. We have prepared some questionnaire for Ronak. So we'll ask some generic questions. Ronak has made really nice presentation for all of us. And then we will have that question and answer sessions initially. And after that, we will open the call or flow for individual questions. So yeah, thank you. And over to you, Mr. Ronak.
Namaste. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Is my voice coming clear?
Yes, we can hear you.
So as Avinash said, my name is Ronak. मैं ओरिजिनली इंडिया से ही हूँ. मैं गुजरात से हूँ. मैं गुजरात में मैं पैदा हुआ था, and then my parents moved to Tanzania, East Africa. तो वहाँ पर मैं बड़ा हुआ. My schooling was done there. And then I was 16 when I moved to US. I came for college over here. मैंने US में college किया, अपना accounting finance पढ़ा, and then I finished my CPA and the CFA charter later on. और मैं practice कर रहा हूँ 16 साल से, 16 years हो गए अभी. फिर जब मैंने CPA वगैरह खत्म कर दिया, फिर मैंने सोचा कि अभी लाइफ को बोरिंग कैसा करना है, how to make my life boring. So I said let's go into taxes. But then it turns out कि taxes जितना boring लगता है इतना है नहीं अगर आप उसको समझ लो अच्छे से. Usually ऐसा हो जाता है because it's very burdensome. तो कभी कभार किसी भी कंट्री का कोई भी टैक्स लो पकड़ लो, आपको लगेगा यार ये क्या मसला है यहाँ पर. से वही चीज यूएस में भी है. यूएस टैक्स लॉ जो है वो सबसे कॉम्प्लिकेटेड, इट्स द मोस्ट कॉम्प्लिकेटेड टैक्स लॉ इन द वर्ल्ड, राइट? इट्स ऑलमोस्ट 8,000 पेजेस and there is no way you can get completion of it and understand every aspect of it. कितने सारे लोग इसके पीछे लगे होते हैं, and they always try to make it better because they are trying to address so many issues. So that's the thing with US law. You hate it, you love it, you will talk about it. ऐसा है. So the idea with this call is basically if we have a better understanding of क्या चल रहा है, क्या concept क्या है, then it will make life very easy in terms of filing. आप खुद से फाइल करो, आप किसी एडवाइजर को ले लो, डिपेंडिंग ऑन व्हाट योर सिचुएशन इज. But as long as you know what you're doing, then your life becomes very easy. आपको पता चल रहेगा कि क्या चल रहा है, and everything is very logical. It's a very intelligent system. कभी कभार लगता है it's so burdensome कि political views बहुत आते हैं in TV पर, but ऐसा नहीं है. Really extremely smart people work behind the scenes. US tax law को create करने के लिए, उसको legitimately बनाने के लिए, so that आम आदमी जो है, normal person can handle it. Of course, जब आप कुछ फिक्स करने जाते हो तो कोई और चीज बिगड़ जाती है. Lot of people who are in IT will know. You try to fix something, then you break something. So then you have to break that thing. So ऐसा करते 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 100-150 साल हो गए टैक्स लॉ का, and here we are. So coming back again, 2017 में President Trump also tried to make tax very simple because it was very complex. So and he did. They successfully made tax law very straightforward for almost 70% of the people. But at the same time, in order to make that simple, उन्होंने किधर और जगह जो एरियाज है वहाँ बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज बढ़ा ली. तो दैट्स वेयर इंटरनेशनल टैक्स लॉ केम इन. आपका इंटरनेशनल टैक्स लॉ का एक्सपोजर बढ़ गया, लॉट ऑफ पेनल्टीज वगैरह किक्ड इन. तो जैसे मैंने बोला कि 60-70% लोगों को अफेक्ट नहीं करता, बट इट डज अफेक्ट द 30% पीपल. बट इट्स बेटर टू नो द होल पिक्चर, क्योंकि जिस तरह से हमारी अभी सोसाइटी हो रही है, एवरीथिंग इज ग्लोबल. सबके कनेक्शन सभी जगह पे रहते हैं. नोबडी इज इन वन कंट्री. कुछ ना कुछ एक्सपोजर सभी कंट्रीज में रहता है. तो इट्स गुड टू नो कि क्या चल रहा है. So then, before we start the presentation, I want to thank you, Avinash, and the Globalnagari team for having me on this call, and I'll be really happy to share what I know. As I said, the goal is not. I'm nowhere close. जो 8,000 pages मैंने बोले थे, I hardly cover probably 30% of it. Not even, because it's very complex. So what I will do is, instead of जैसे जो book knowledge वगैरह होता है जो Google में मिल जाएगा, उसके जगह हम क्या करेंगे? We'll try to make it a story and logic behind this. जो मुझे पता है किस तरह से क्या लॉजिक है इसका, and then we'll go over it, and hopefully आप सबको उस चीज से थोड़ी हेल्प हो जाएगी. तो then you will have a better understanding of the tax law, and you can be a better filer when you're going to TurboTax or you're going to anywhere. You know what you're doing, and that will make you feel good. That's the idea. And I'm a huge fan of Globalnagari. I saw some presentations from the other advisors, and I was really happy with the work they do, and I'm really glad to be here. So अभी आप देखेंगे तो कुछ समरी क्वेश्चंस क्रिएट किए थे, जिससे बेसिकली जो सबसे बिगेस्ट मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट कॉल, राइट, हाउ टू रिड्यूस माय टैक्सेस, सबको ये करना है. एंड हाउ टू रिड्यूस माय टैक्सेस, कौन सा फाइलिंग स्टेटस होना चाहिए, टैक्स ब्रैकेट है, कौन सा फॉर्म, राइट, ये जो क्वेश्चन है, कौन से डिडक्शंस होते हैं, कॉलेज फीस, काफी लोग ये ऑल फैमिली पीपल, किड्स गोइंग टू कॉलेज, डिडक्शंस आर अवेलेबल, सो उसका भी मेक श्योर करना है कि वी हैव कैप्चर्ड दैट. क्रेडिट और डिडक्शन के बीच में क्या डिफरेंस है, कब टैक्सेस ड्यू है, डेडलाइंस क्या है, एक्सटेंशंस क्या है, कौन सा सॉफ्टवेयर यूज करना चाहिए, स्टेट लॉज, IRS, फॉरेन अकाउंट्स, और इंडिया अगर आपका इंटरनेशनल एक्सपोजर है तो आपको किस तरह से उसको बैलेंस करोगे. ऑल दिस क्वेश्चन, सो विल ट्राई टू आंसर ऑल दिस इंस्टेड ऑफ गोइंग वन बाय वन क्वेश्चन. लेट्स मेक इट अ फ्लो, and that will help you all to get a better understanding of this, right? ऐसा ट्राई करेंगे, and then we'll open up for question and answers, right? All right. So I guess, Avinash, we can go to the PowerPoint.
Sure. Yep.
यही जो अविनाश ने बताई थी, same way we're going to, मेरा इंट्रोडक्शन दे दिया. I've been practicing for a lot of years. We'll go to the main agenda. जैसे हमारा एजेंडा ये है आज का कि टैक्स का रैशनल क्या है, क्यों टैक्स लॉ बनाया गया, क्या रिक्वायरमेंट्स रहती है, कौन सी टाइप की इनकम रहती है, क्या डिडक्शंस है, कौन सा टैक्स ब्रैकेट है, कौन से फॉर्म इंपॉर्टेंट रहते हैं आपके लिए, राइट. और 2017 के बाद क्या चेंजेस आए, that's what we're going to talk about. Now the biggest question comes कि how to reduce your taxes, right? ये बहुत important question है. ये हम सबका यही रहता है. Everybody wants to reduce taxes. Why not? And आप मानोगे नहीं, even the government wants you to do that. Tax law was made by the people who don't want to pay tax, right? That's why you make the tax law. The people who are making the tax law, वो आप हमारे जैसे ही है. हमारे साथ जैसे हम बड़े हुए थे, हम जाके फिर गवर्नमेंट के लिए काम करते हैं और मेक श्योर करना है कि कैसे गवर्नमेंट ज्यादा टैक्सेस ना ले. तो उसके लिए फिर अलग अलग लॉज बनते हैं टू मेक श्योर द टैक्स बिल स्टेज एट द मिनिमम. बट एट द सेम टाइम सरकार चलाने के लिए, देश चलाने के लिए, सुविधा जो हमको मिलती है उसके लिए पैसा चाहिए, तो दे हैव टू रेज टैक्स. तो आप न्यूज में काफी बार देखते हो, पढ़ते हो कि एक फ्लैट सिस्टम क्यों नहीं हो जाती, 15% सभी भर दे, सब इजी हो जाए, टैक्स कंप्लीटली निकाल दो. वेल, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता, ऐसा इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल. आप ऐसा करोगे तो पूरी सिस्टम गिर के बिखर जाएगी. क्योंकि इनकम टैक्स एक एंगल है, बट आपका जो पैसा आता है वो कहीं जगह पे जाता है। आपने नायक मूवी में देखा होगा, अनिल कपूर बोलता है ना कि सरकार का हक है, जिस वो ये पैसा जो है सब कुछ घूम फिर के आप ही को सुविधा के हिसाब से आपको मिलता है, रोड्स, फैसिलिटीज, ब्रिजेस। सो इट्स important for the country's development. So tax is very important. Government has to collect taxes, and an efficient system has to be made. तो जैसे सो कमिंग बैक टू यूएस टैक्स लॉ, जिस तरह से किसी भी देश की बात करें, इट्स नॉट द बेस्ट, इट्स नॉट द परफेक्ट, बट इट्स इज द बेस्ट दैट दे हैव, एंड एवरीबडी एवरी डे दे आर ट्राइंग टू मेक इट एज एफिशिएंट एज possible to the majority of the people. तो फिर तो दैट्स द रैशनल फॉर द टैक्स, राइट? यू इफ यू हेट इट मोर, you will never come around it. आपका you'll always be frustrated, right? And that's not how you should look at it. अगर आप ऐसा करोगे तो आप ऐसा ही करते जाओगे, and then you will start looking for loopholes जो गलत जगह पे है, and that's where you start making mistakes. And then फिर आपका गोल यही रहता है कि यार टैक्स कम करना था, but you end up making mistakes which is federally incorrect, law के हिसाब से incorrect है, ऐसा नहीं करना चाहिए। तो legitimately काफी सारी चीजें आपके पास अवेलेबल है, अगर आप समझ लो तो you'll always have that, and आपका टैक्स एफिशिएंट हो जाएगा, राइट? फॉर सिंपल जो रिटर्न्स रहते हैं, सिंपल टैक्स सिचुएशन होती है, उसमें तो ज्यादा कुछ करना नहीं रहता है। सरकार ने आपका काम ऑलरेडी कर लिया है, बहुत मिनिमम कर लिया है, ऑटोमेटिक सॉफ्टवेयर बना लिए, एंड जैसे जैसे कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज बढ़ती है, आप उसके हिसाब से फिर डिडक्शन वगैरह पढ़ के यू कैन यूटिलाइज दैट। जस्ट टू कीप इन माइंड, मैं आई एम गोइंग वेरी फास्ट, समटाइम्स मैं बहुत फास्ट बोल रहा हूँ, तो इफ इट लुक्स कि मैं बहुत सारी तेजी से बोल रहा हूँ, प्लीज इंटरप्ट एंड remind me to slow down, and I will try to slow down.
Sure, Ronak. No
Okay.
problem. Yeah.
Okay. We can go to the next page. Next slide, Avinash. Income की बात करें तो normally filing requirements क्या रहती है, right? तो common चीज क्या है? One thing you have to remember, काफी देशों में ऐसा नहीं है। For example, अगर हम इंडिया की बात करें, कनाडा की बात करें, तो क्या होता है? They usually tax you on the income that you earned anywhere while you were resident. जब आप उस देश में थे, अगर वहां से निकल गए उसके बाद आप अर्न करते हो तो देन दे डोंट टैक्स यू, राइट? जैसे हम एनआरआई बन जाते हैं, राइट? व्हेन यू बिकम एनआरआई, यू अर्न एनीथिंग इन अमेरिका, यू डोंट हैव टू फाइल रिटर्न्स इन इंडिया, बिकॉज आप इंडिया छोड़ चुके हो। तो आप इंडिया में हर साल रिटर्न फाइल नहीं करते, आपके W2 में जो अर्न करते हो, सैलरी से अर्न करते हो, यूर आउट। तो ऐसा ही लॉ यूएस में है, ऐसा ही लॉ कनाडा में है, इंडिया में है, काफी सारे देश में है। यूएस इज डिफरेंट। यूएस टैक्सेस यू ऑन ग्लोबल इनकम। अगर आप यूएस के रेजिडेंट हो, ग्रीन कार्ड होल्डर हो, परमानेंट रेजिडेंट हो, या फिर अगर H1 पे हो तो भी, अगर आप यू स्पेंड मोर देन 180 डेज इन यूएस, यू आर अ यूएस रेजिडेंट। तो जैसे आपने वो स्पेंड कर दिया, यू हैव टू फाइल रिटर्न एंड रिपोर्ट ग्लोबल इनकम। जहां से भी आपने कुछ भी अर्न किया, यू हैव टू रिपोर्ट ऑन दैट रिटर्न। और फिर अगर आपने किसी जिस देश में अर्न किया है वहां का अगर कोई टैक्स पे किया है आपने, तो आपको उसका क्रेडिट इधर मिलेगा, बट you have to file. So that's the biggest difference in US. That's why it's more stricter, because all the US residents, उनको अपनी पूरी global income दिखानी है, and उसके ऊपर फिर tax pay करना है। So US citizen green card holders living in Canada, I used Canada as an example क्योंकि नजदीक है, but जहाँ पे भी हो आप, you have to basically report your income from the world. फिर आपकी और कौन सी इनकम आएगी? तो अलग अलग इनकम, जो आप इन्वेस्टमेंट किया, आपने पार्टनरशिप्स में पैसा डाला, इंटरेस्ट डिविडेंड अर्न किया, आप फॉरेन कंपनीज में आप शेयर होल्डर हो, राइट? स्नोबर्ड्स का एग्जांपल मैंने लिया। कैनेडियंस जो है यहाँ पर, बाय द वे, आई एम करंटली राइट नाउ इन टोरंटो, आई प्रैक्टिस आउट ऑफ टोरंटो ऑन यूएस टैक्सेस, सो दैट्स व्हाई आई हैव कैनेडियन इन्फ्लुएंस लिटिल बिट ओवर हियर, क्योंकि यहाँ पर बहुत कॉमन, लॉट ऑफ यूएस सिटीजंस लिव इन कनाडा, lot of Canadian citizens live in the US. Same thing will apply with on the India side. So because it's global state, everything goes hand in hand. तो मैंने स्नोबर्ड्स के एग्जांपल ली थी, क्योंकि यहाँ पर विंटर में क्या होता है कि सितंबर अक्टूबर एवरीबडी गोज टू फ्लोरिडा, एवरीबडी गोज टू वार्म वेदर, एंड दे स्टे देयर अंटिल मार्च अप्रैल। वेदर सही हो जाए फिर वापस आ जाते हैं, तो उनको स्नोबर्ड्स बोला जाता है, राइट? इधर तो वहां पर क्वेश्चन ये आ जाता है कि इफ यू स्पेंड मोर देन 183 days in the US, now even though you are a Canadian citizen, you are a resident of US, क्योंकि आपने 183 डे का जो दिन है, जो क्रॉस मार्क वो आपने क्रॉस कर, नाउ यू हैव अ फाइलिंग रिक्वायरमेंट, आपको यूएस टैक्स फाइल करना है। So all those things, so there are small technicalities that come in, but they make you file the return. You have to make sure you catch up on that. तो ये स्नोबर्ड्स का तो कनाडा का एग्जांपल लिया था, दैट्स अप्लाइज टू इंडियन सिटीजन एज वेल। इंडियन सिटीजन हो, यूएस सिटीजन हो, अगर आप इंडिया में थे, देन व्हेन यू कम हियर फॉर द समर, इफ यू क्रॉस द 183 मार्क, यू हैव टू फाइल द रिटर्न। You have to file a return. अब क्वेश्चन ये है कि अगर आप रिटर्न फाइल नहीं करते होगे तो क्या होगा? Well, US government IRS receives about 190 million returns a year. Chances of they catching your return अगर आपने 1040 NR फाइल नहीं किया, there is no way you can place a probability. शायद वो लोग आपके पास नोटिस भेजेंगे, शायद नहीं भेजेंगे, you don't know. But because ये टैक्स सिस्टम जो है वो वॉलंटरी बेसिस पे बना है कि hey, please come forward and disclose what you need to disclose, right? So they expect you to do that. So it's basically, as a good citizen, it's just your duty to file a return, inform them. Yeah, should you not? What happens if you did not file for 5 years? Depends. There is no law. They don't put it on the paper. Okay, अगर आपने 5 साल से फाइल नहीं किया तो आपको कुछ नहीं करेंगे, आपको जेल में भेज देंगे. None of that. It's there's a lot of for sales perspective, a lot of news will come out to make you, to scare you. But it शायद करेंगे. अगर आपने $1 million की इनकम नहीं दिखाई है हर साल 5 साल के लिए, you have a big problem. You need to know your situation. है ना? अगर आपका कोई इनकम नहीं है, you are a simple person, you just traveling around and you just did not know, you have a different situation. तो आपको, you know, so lot of logic और situation के हिसाब से apply करेगा law. But ideally, basically, अगर आप, the bottom line for who needs to file, if you are spending more than 180 days, 83 days in the US, you have to file a US return and disclose an income, right? That's the idea. That's the bottom line of it. So that's the filing side of it. Then next page पे आएगा विनाश, शायद we have income types.
Sure.
कौन से इनकम टाइप्स है, जैसे मैंने पहले बोली आपको क्या क्या कॉमन चीज क्या रहेगी जो बेसिकली अप्लाइज टू ऑलमोस्ट 60 to 70% पीपल, राइट? you're working, you get a W2. That's the biggest source of your income. And then you have passive income, right? Dividends आएगा, इन्वेस्टमेंट किया कंपनी में, स्टॉक्स में डाला, बैंक में पैसा डाला, you have interest income, आपके पास रेंटल प्रॉपर्टी है, रेंट आएगा, बिजनेसेस में इन्वेस्ट किया, 3-4 लोग इकट्ठा हुए, डंकी डोनट खरीद लिया, राइट? गैस स्टेशन खरीद लिया, या तो कोई भी बड़ा कुछ नर्सिंग होम खोल दिया, कुछ भी कर दिया, एनी बिजनेस दैट यू आर इन, 4-5 लोग साथ में आ गए, देन यू हैव बिजनेस इन्वेस्टमेंट जहां पर आप पासिव इन्वेस्टर हो, यू आर गेटिंग पासिव इनकम. सो दैट इनकम विल बी रिपोर्टेड ऑन स्केड्यूल K1. आपको ऐसे मिसलेनियस फॉर्म आते जाएंगे, हर साल आपको आएगा. 1099 आता है, राइट? 1099 पे आपका इंटरेस्ट आता है, डिविडेंड आता है. अगर ऑफिशियली किसी को रेंट पे दिया है कोई कंपनी को, तो वो भी आपको 1099 मिसलेनियस देगी, उसमें आपका रेंट आएगा वगैरह. फिर अगर आप रिटायर्ड हो तो आपको सोशल सिक्योरिटी इनकम आती है. आप जब काम करते हो W2 पे, आपका सोशल सिक्योरिटी टैक्स कटता है एंड मेडिकेयर टैक्स कटता है. वो टैक्स अभी तो गया, 7.65% रेट है उसका, वो अभी आपके पगार से गया. लेकिन जब आप रिटायर होंगे, व्हेन यू रीच द एज ऑफ 65 समथिंग, यू कैन स्टार्ट विथड्रॉइंग दैट मनी, यू गेट ए सोशल सिक्योरिटी. अब इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि जितना पैसा आपने आज तक पे किया है वो पैसा पूरा वापस मिलेगा, नहीं. गवर्नमेंट ने स्केल बनाया हुआ है कि पेंशन किस तरह से मिलेगा. इससे इक्विवेलेंट ऑफ पेंशन, गवर्नमेंट पेंशन इंडिया में होता है, राइट? तो सोशल सिक्योरिटी इनकम वो है. आपको वो इनकम जब आएगी, रिटायरमेंट आपको हेल्प करेगी, डिपेंडिंग ऑन कितना आपने कंट्रीब्यूट किया है थ्रू आउट योर वर्किंग ईयर्स, उसके हिसाब से आपको वो पैसा वापस मिलेगा. एंड उसके अलावा कोई अगर इनकम नहीं है आपकी, तो दैट इनकम इज बेसिकली टैक्स फ्री एज फार एज, और कोई इनकम नहीं है. इफ यू आर मेकिंग $500,000 at 65 and you are withdrawing social security income, well, portion of that income will be taxable because you're still earning, right? आप अभी भी पैसा आ रहा है आपका. और अगर कुछ नहीं है तो it will be really not taxable, और या तो आप बहुत कम टैक्स ब्रैकेट में होंगे. So that's social security. कभी कभार आप 401k में पैसा डालते हो, राइट? अभी आप 401k का ऑफिस में, आप व्हेन यू वर्क यू हैव अ 401k प्लान, वहां पर आप डालते हो पैसा, हर साल उसकी लिमिट होती है. अभी 20,000 हो गई है, 20-21,000 है, हर साल ऊपर जाती है थोड़ा पैसा से. तो अगर आपने वो पैसा डाल दिया 401k में, तो हम रिटायर सेविंग्स की बात बाद में करेंगे, आई एम जस्ट गोइंग ओवर इट कि 401k में पैसा डाल दिया तो अभी उस इनकम पे आप टैक्स नहीं पे कर रहे हो, एंड देन यू स्टार्ट विड्रॉइंग दैट इनकम व्हेन यू रिटायर व्हाइल इट ग्रोज टैक्स फ्री. So that's the idea. So that's the type of income you might be receiving. फिर बिजनेस इनकम आती है. आपने कोई ऑफिशियली बिजनेस नहीं बनाया, बट आप कंसल्टिंग करते हो, कॉन्ट्रैक्टर हो, जिसमें आपको 1099 मिला जाता है हर साल. आपका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जस्ट पे यू 1099. वेल, जो बिजनेस इनकम आएगी वो भी आप रिपोर्ट करोगे, उसके सामने खर्चे लिखोगे, और फिर जो नेट प्रॉफिट होएगा उसके ऊपर आप टैक्स पे करोगे, राइट? सो one thing, let's just talk about right now business income में काफी सारे, especially consulting income in the field of information technology. lot of people have consulting income. तो आप कॉन्ट्रैक्टर की तरह काम करोगे, आपका जो एम्प्लॉयर है आपको वो 1099 दे देगा, एंड देन बट वहां पर क्या होता है कि what is the difference between receiving a 1099 versus receiving a W-2. It's a key thing to differentiate. When you're starting a new job, a lot of time they ask you, hey, do you want to join us as a contractor or as an employee? Sometimes they ask you that, and the question है कि what choice to make. बहुत फर्क ये पड़ जाता है कि W-2 अगर आप हो तो employer takes care of all the taxes withholding का. They take care of the half portion of social security, Medicare. आपका जो withholding tax करना है, TDS बोलते हैं इंडिया में, और यहाँ पर withholding हो जाता है, हर पेचेक में काटते हैं, वो सब काटा जाता है एडवांस में, आपको नेट पे आपकी बैंक में आ गया, आपका काम खत्म. अभी आपको नेक्स्ट ईयर बस टैक्स रिटर्न फाइल करना है. बिजनेस इनकम में आप ही अपने एम्प्लॉई हो, तो यू आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर ऑल द टैक्सेस, एम्प्लॉई पोर्शन, एम्प्लॉयर पोर्शन एंड योर विथहोल्डिंग. और वो टैक्सेस जो है आपको कैलकुलेट करके, प्रॉफिट कैलकुलेट करके, आपने प्रॉफिट इज योर सैलरी बेसिकली, आपने उसको कैलकुलेट करके हर क्वार्टर आईआरएस को पे करना है ना. अब क्वेश्चन ये हो जाता है कि ऐसा करना चाहिए कि नहीं करना चाहिए. वेल, कुछ सिचुएशंस में, एक्चुअली मोस्ट ऑफ द सिचुएशन में करना चाहिए, बिकॉज व्हेन यू आर सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड you have more control of your income, you have more cash in hand, and you can plan better. अगर आप एम्प्लॉई बन गए हो, you don't have much options for tax savings other than what your employer is telling you, right? एम्प्लॉयर बोलेगा कि यार मेरे पास सिर्फ 401k अवेलेबल है, उसके अलावा और कुछ नहीं कर सकते, बस that's all you have. अगर उनके पास 401k नहीं है तो आप you're stuck, there's nothing you can do about it. When you're self-employed, आप 1099 पे कमाते हो, तो you have more control over your income. So that helps you. So it's always a good option to go that route. It becomes cumbersome in terms of filing requirements. You have to make sure you're on top of your taxes. But that's okay. एक बार set हो गया, उसके बाद it's everything is on a cruise mode sort of. So that's the idea of income types. I hope it's not too overwhelming yet. आप सबने ये सब on average देखा ही होगा mostly. सालों देखते होंगे. We just basically refreshing it. इनकम के बाद आता है फिर डिडक्शन. अभी इनकम तो पैसा तो कमा लिया, साल खत्म हो गया, अभी टैक्सेस सेव कैसे करें, राइट? सो देन वी कम टू द नेक्स्ट पेज कि भैया अभी क्या कर सकते हैं. तो एग्जांपल, हाइपोथेटिकल एग्जांपल, $1,00,000 कमा लिया साल का, ओके, दैट्स द $100,000 वाज द इनकम लास्ट ईयर, W-2 पे पकड़ लो. एंड फिर अभी आता है, सो 2017 में, pre-2017 this used to be very complex. We could go into it. I have seen both sides. I used to practice before 2017. I'm practicing after 2017. Pre-2017, life was totally different tax-wise. And post-2017, life is totally different. Everything is different. Subtle changes, but they make a huge difference. Huge. पहले क्या हुआ था, itemized deduction was a big item. Everybody had that question, यार मैं standardize करूँ क्या itemize करूँ, क्या मुझे ज़्यादा मिलेगा? And it used to be so much complexity. President Trump came. Not that he sat and he created all this. He had advisors. They were always working on it, but they were successfully able to execute this thing. उन्होंने क्या किया कि यार IRS और जो टैक्स लॉ है, it's extremely burdensome. बहुत burden है to lot of taxpayers. Lot of people don't know कि क्या करना चाहिए, क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. We want to make things simple for majority of the people as much as possible, and they successfully did that for individual people, right? उन्होंने क्या किया कि यार स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन जो है, क्या बोला कि आपने कोई खर्चा किया हो ना किया हो, गवर्नमेंट यूज्ड टू गिव यू $6,000. दिस इज प्री 2017. अगर आप अकेले हो, सिंगल फाइल कर रहे हो, तो यू यूज्ड टू गेट $6,000 स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन. तो देन यू डोंट हैव टू वरी अबाउट कैलकुलेटिंग हाउ मच आइटमाइज्ड डिडक्शन यू हैड, क्या क्या खर्चा किया. यू डोंट हैव टू वरी. सो फॉर स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड इट यूज्ड टू बी 6,000 standard. So what President Trump did, or what the new law did, the Tax Act 2017, they doubled it. 6,000 का 12,000 कर दिया. तो now क्योंकि क्या हो जाता है ना कि किसी बंदे का 6,000 नहीं है, but 6,350 है. Now just for the additional $350 in deduction, they have to file this additional form, Schedule A. And now they have to legitimately itemize everything. They have to make sure they keep the receipts. एंड IRS जब ऑडिट के लिए या कुछ रिव्यू करने के लिए पिक करता है, सो 190 million returns, they cannot go individually. So it's a computer pickup. अभी कंप्यूटर सिंपल से सिंपल रिटर्न का भी पिकअप कर लेगा. So it's burden for everybody. IRS has to go and look for the $6,000 receipt. The guy who's going to audit, the auditor who's going to audit that return, that person is getting paid $12,000 and he has to audit $6,000 worth. So it's not worth it to use their time, right? That used to be the problem also. So then they doubled it. Okay, make it $12,000. If you're an individual person, सरकार आपको, IRS आपको $12,000 हर साल दे देगी डिडक्शन के लिए. एंड देन एवरी ईयर इट कीप्स गोइंग अप, एडजस्टेड फॉर इन्फ्लेशन. तो अगर आप 2022 में देखो, तो दैट डिडक्शन इज नाउ 12,950 अगर आप सिंगल बंदे हो। तो दिस क्या हो जाए, इससे ना लेजिटिमेटली मोस्टली सारे खर्चे आपको जो आप डिडक्ट कर सकते हो ना वो ऑलमोस्ट आ गए। अभी इससे ज्यादा नहीं होगा मोस्टली, अगर होगा तो then you miss out, you know, that's what it is. But it makes your life very easy. This affected a lot of people. Filings became so easy, right? Schedule A is gone. अब वही चीज अगर आप मेरिट फाइलिंग जॉइंट, यूएस में ऐसा है, काफी देशों में ऐसा नहीं है। इफ यू गो टू कनाडा, यू गो टू इंडिया, एनी अदर बिगर कंट्रीज, taxation is on individuals. There is no joint. And that's the whole beauty of US tax law. No matter how complex it is, then all countries in the world try to make their laws they try to match it with the US because it's very beautifully done. It's very intelligent. तो इन्होंने बना दिया कि let's do a concept of merit filing joint. दोनों साथ में फाइल करो, reduce filing requirements. कि हस्बैंड और वाइफ का कोई अलग इनकम नहीं है तो यू नो एक बंदा अगर कमा रहा है तो दोनों का एक ही साथ कर दो, and then this husband gets the benefit of wife's deduction, right? Even though wife is not earning, or vice versa, wife is earning, husband is not earning, and when you bring them together, your tax is reduced. So that's very intelligent. ऐसा किधर भी नहीं है. You don't have that in Canada, you don't have that in India, you don't have it anywhere in the world. Taxation are fixed rate per individual. You don't get that joint deduction for combined. So coming back to deductions, अगर merit filing jointly कर रहे हो आप, तो जो 12,000 का deduction था standard deduction, it became 25,000, 26,000. That also helps you. Now you have $26,000 that government is allowing you without any questions asked. So then that reduces your filing requirement big time. क्योंकि क्या हो जाएगा कि आपका so now that brings us to itemized deduction कि क्या क्या खर्चे मिल सकते हैं, right? आपको mortgage interest मिलता है. You can deduct the mortgage interest part of your mortgage in the property. You cannot deduct principal, but you can deduct the interest part. आपको statement आती है हर साल उसकी, and you can कितना साल में आपने पे किया, you take that amount that you paid to your bank, you can deduct it. फिर आपको donations आपने किए, you can deduct that. इस सब में limitations है, but for practical purposes आप समझ के चलो कि ये पूरा deduct हो जाएगा. There's a limitation how much donation you can deduct, but that's technical. We don't need to. It doesn't affect right now, so we don't need to get too much into it. क्रॉस बॉर्डर मूव आपने अगर कर दिए तो आपको कुछ लेजिटिमेट मूविंग एक्सपेंसेस मिल सकते हैं जिस साल आपने मूव किया एम्प्लॉयमेंट की वजह से. इट्स अ वेरी रेयर डिडक्शन बट इट्स देयर. मेडिकल एक्सपेंसेस पहले ऐसा था कि मेडिकल एक्सपेंसेस का आपकी जो इनकम है उसका 2%. सो मान लो आपने 100,000 अर्न किया, उसका 2% हो जाएगा $2,000 आई बिलीव. I supposed to know this by in my head, but $2,000 पकड़ के चलो, 2,000 होना चाहिए. So anything more than 2,000 that you spend on medical expenses is deductible. So if you spend 3,000, you can deduct $1,000. पहले 2,000 आप डिडक्ट नहीं करोगे, उसके ऊपर जितना भी है वो आपको आइटमाइज्ड डिडक्शन में मिलेगा. It used to be that way. Now they changed it to 7.5%. So 7,500 से कुछ भी बड़ा हुआ, then you can deduct. उससे कम हुआ तो नहीं. Reason being कि यार आपको ऊपर स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन हम बहुत ज्यादा दे रहे हैं, so you don't really need the medical expense. But if you still do, and if you spend more than that, we will allow it. That's the idea. फिर सबसे बड़ी चेंज टीसीजी में वो प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स और इनकम टैक्स पे हुई. पहले क्या हुआ करता था कि आपने जो इनकम टैक्स स्टेट को पे किया, आपकी सैलरी में से इनकम टैक्स कटता है, फेडरल करता है और स्टेट भी करता है जिस स्टेट में आप काम करते हो. तो स्टेट को जो टैक्स पे किया, और अगर आपके पास प्रॉपर्टी है तो आपने प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स भी पे किया. whatever taxes that you paid to your local government, state government, वो ना आप उसको वो टैक्स आप डिडक्ट कर सकते थे पहले, अभी भी कर सकते हो, पर उन्होंने सब कुछ कंबाइन करके कर दिया कि लिमिट कर दी 10,000, नॉट मोर देन 10,000. सो आपकी इनकम से आपने जो सैलरी अर्न की उसमें आपने अपने स्टेट को पे किया $6,000. फिर आपका प्रॉपर्टी है, उस प्रॉपर्टी में आपने प्रॉपर्टी टैक्स पे किया $7,000. आपका डिडक्शन बन गया 13,000, राइट? स्टेट को पहले आप पूरा 13,000 डिडक्ट करते थे, अब वो कट के हो गया मैक्सिमम 10,000, राइट? एंड द लॉजिक बिहाइंड इट इज के ऊपर उन्होंने 25,000 कर दिया स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन को. दैट्स द आइडिया, टू मेक थिंग्स सिंपल, मेक इट सिंपल फॉर एवरीबॉडी. उन्होंने डिडक्शंस स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन बढ़ा दिया और टैक्स रेट्स कम कर दिए, तो उससे फाइलिंग रिक्वायरमेंट्स बहुत इजी हो गई. सो दैट ब्रिंग्स अस टू द नेक्स्ट पेज ऑफ द टैक्स. Are we together? I hope we are together. मैं ज़्यादा तेज नहीं जा रहा.
Right. I think you are with the good pace.
Okay. बोर हो रहे तो यार मैं रेकमेंड करूंगा चाय पी ले आप भी, मेरी भी चाय आ गई है. तो ये सब्जेक्ट ही ऐसा है कि चाय कॉफी की जरूरत पड़ जाएगी.
Sure.
Okay. So next, so that brings us to the tax rates. Avinash, we go to the next one. This looks too
Just
much
curious
information.
about one thing. With this
Yeah.
2017 tax law
हाँ,
change,
हाँ,
will that pull like more numbers taxpayers? Can
absolutely, absolutely.
did government saw that reflection of increasing the numbers because of that change?
100%. More people came into filing, more people came into compliance, right? And more and more, and more people are comfortable filing because now it's very easy. Now you can simply use any software for a simple situation. Before also, पहले भी आप जब TurboTax, HR, HNR, Block बोलो, मैं इन दोनों के example इसलिए ले रहा हूँ because these are the two most common self-serving softwares, TurboTax and HNR, right? उसके अलावा बहुत सारे हैं, but these are the two most common that you can do. So काफी सारे लोग उसमें उसको यूज करके खत्म कर सकते हैं, and it's very easy.
Right.
This is for straightforward. I'll get to this softwares, okay? Benefits and problems with this, okay? We'll come to that.
Sure.
And there's no goal of undermining them. They are one of the best softwares because I used to use them when I was young, so I know they do an amazing job. But then they have limitations which stop you at some point, which they also say, I guess. I know there's nothing. This is how it is. कमिंग बैक टू टैक्स लॉ, सो ये जो हम ये स्लाइड में बहुत सारा लिखा हुआ है, आप इस सब में ध्यान मत दो, क्योंकि मैंने सीधा आईआरएस की वेबसाइट से निकाला था, जस्ट टू शो यू कि द वे एवरीथिंग गेट्स प्रेजेंटेड ऑन द आईआरएस वेबसाइट इज इंटिमिडेटिंग, राइट? इट्स यार क्या करेंगे, जैसे मैं बोला इट्स 8000 पेजेस, क्या करोगे आप? देयर इज नथिंग यू कैन डू अबाउट इट, बट इट्स वेरी सिंपल. सिंपल लॉ, आपने सिर्फ पहला जो वर्ड लिखा है वही पढ़ना है. योर टैक्स ब्रैकेट्स स्टार्ट फ्रॉम 10%, 0%. अगर 10,000 से कम है तो कोई टैक्स ही नहीं है. आपकी इनकम अगर 10,700 से कम है, सबसे आखिरी लाइन में देखेंगे आप, तो कोई टैक्स ही नहीं है, जीरो टैक्स ड्यू. अगर आप कपल हो, मैरिड फाइलिंग जॉइंट, तो 20,000 से कम अगर आपकी इनकम है तो कोई टैक्स ड्यू नहीं है, राइट? नो टैक्स. उसके बाद 10% है टैक्स, 12%, 22%, 24, एंड इट गोज अप टू 37%. हाईएस्ट ब्रैकेट यूज्ड टू बी 39.6 before 2017. It got now reduced to 37 maximum. तो उन्होंने ये ऊपर के 2% निकाल दिए, स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन बढ़ा दिया, छोटी छोटी सडल चेंजेस उन्होंने की, but it made a huge difference. Like extremely intelligent, extremely. So contrary to the popular belief about President Trump being president, not that he wrote this tax law, there were a lot of help, but this was one of the most intelligent moves and one of the most intelligent interpretation and implementation of the tax law. Extremely brilliant, very very intelligent, right? तो छोटी छोटी चीजें उन्होंने निकाल दी, स्टैंडर्ड डिडक्शन को डबल कर दिया, ऊपर का 2% निकाल दो, तो अल्ट्रा रिच पीपल ऑल्सो हैप्पी, कॉमन मैन ऑल्सो हैप्पी. इनकम की जो टैक्सेबिलिटी है वो रेंज बढ़ा दी, ये जो उन्होंने बढ़ दिया कि अप टू 10,000 or then up to between over 10,000 but less than 41,000. These numbers used to be 9,000 and 30,000, 40,000 and 70,000. उन्होंने जो गैप्स है वो बढ़ा दिए, बड़ी रेंज में आपका टैक्स कम हो गया. सो योर टैक्स इज प्रोग्रेसिव, राइट? कि पहले 10,000 10% पे, नेक्स्ट 10,000 12% पे, उसके बाद के 30,000 22% पे. तो जब मान लो कि आपकी इनकम है $200,000, तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि पूरे के पूरे 200,000 आपकी इनकम फ्लो होगी थर्ड लाइन, बिटवीन थर्ड एंड फोर्थ लाइन, राइट? बिटवीन इनकम बिटवीन 170 and 250, सेकंड एंड थर्ड लाइन, सॉरी, राइट? तो इसका मतलब तो आप यू आर इन बिटवीन देयर. तो इसका मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि 32% और 35% की जो एवरेज है वो पे करोगे आप पूरी इनकम पे. नहीं नहीं नहीं, आपके पहले 10,000 टैक्स फ्री है, दूसरे 10,000 10%, उसके बाद के 10,000 12%, करते 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 इट प्रोग्रेसेस इन नंबर्स अप अंटिल द 35%. जो हाईएस्ट इनकम है आपकी, यानी इनकम ओवर 170 इज गोइंग टू बी टैक्स्ड एट 32%. So all in all, जब आपकी एवरेज निकालोगे तो you'll end up paying at 24%, 25%, ऐसा आपका हो जाएगा. जो आपका टैक्स फॉर्म आपको बता देगा कि what's the actual rate that you pay. This is just for calculating purposes. ये जो सिस्टम है इसको प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्स सिस्टम कहा जाता है, एंड ये अप्लाई करती है मोस्टली पूरी दुनिया में. all government system are majority big economies, big countries, big tax laws. This is how it is. आप इंडिया पकड़ो, कनाडा पकड़ो, यूके पकड़ो, यूएस पकड़ लो, प्रोग्रेसिव सिस्टम इज द मोस्ट एफिशिएंट वे टू गो अबाउट इट. यू कभी कभार टैक्स के जो ओपोनेंट्स होते, प्रोमोनेंट्स होते, बोलते हैं ना फ्लैट टैक्स कर दो, कोई बोलते हैं टैक्स निकाल दो. इट डजंट वर्क. You cannot do it. It's hard. It's very hard to implement that. It can work for a small country, for a small group of people. Like, you know, when you're in UAE, आप मूवीज में देखते हैं, हम कभी टैक्स हेवंस आइलैंड्स होते हैं, कोई टैक्स नहीं होता, सब कुछ, you know, कोई किसी को पता नहीं चलता. कैन that works for that island. Tax free, it works for Dubai because Dubai has other, or UAE, overall, or any other country. I don't want to scapegoat UAE. It's a beautiful place, but it works for them because they're a smaller country. They have a smaller population, and they have other resources that can help pay for all the services they're getting in the country. Slowly, UAE is also trying to implement some sort of tax because as their economy is growing, as their country is growing, they need inflow of the money. Otherwise, they cannot operate. The country as a whole cannot operate. So progressive system is the way to go so far, and that's what they've been doing. And this is how your taxes will look like. So it's very interesting how much tax you end up paying. और ये हम बात करें फेडरल लेवल पे, ओके स्टेट का भी एग्जैक्टली ऐसा ही होता है बट छोटे रेट्स पे. स्टेट्स रेट्स यूजुअली स्टार्ट्स एट 0% and they typically for majority of the states tap out at 6 or 7%. There are some states that are very expensive, right? California, Illinois. California highest tax rate is 13%. Illinois also highest tax rate is 11-12%. So there are some expensive states that they charge you really high tax. There are some states that there is no tax. Ideally everybody should be in Texas or Florida or New Hampshire, no tax, right? But then there are other ways the government makes money from some other resources. So when you don't have any state filing requirement, तो state का मसला ही नहीं है, सोचना ही नहीं है, उसकी बातें खत्म होगी federal side. But if it is, तो states का भी ऐसा ही concept आता है, progressive rates, right? So that's pretty much about it on the individual side. I'm going to talk quickly about businesses. Any of you who have business exposures, or any of you who knows who has business exposure, this is something to look into. On the next slide, Avinash. And I hope we are still together. We'll keep the flow. Corporate. So corporate का ऐसा ही हो जाता है कि very similar to individuals, corporations have income, have expenses, and then they have to pay the tax on profits. So corporation tax rates पे इधर मैंने लिखा है, but let's just talk about it. It's very interesting. It used to be progressive rates. इतनी income पे 0%, इतनी income पे 15%. You used to pay until 35%, which was the highest tax that you had to pay on your business profit. So in order to help businesses grow, आप ये पिछले 10 सालों पिछले pre-COVID, मतलब since 2017 आप देख रहे हो, US employment rates are extremely high. Economy is booming overall. Like अभी पिछले 1.5 साल से वो लोग कोशिश करे कि इकोनॉमी को स्लो डाउन करे, राइट? इन्फ्लेशन वगैरह को स्लो डाउन करे, हो ही नहीं रहा. It's just not happening because economy is so strong that उसको स्लो करने का कोशिश कर रहे हैं, रेट्स वगैरह बढ़ा के, हो ही नहीं रही है, right? They are trying to create unemployment, but हो ही नहीं रहा है. Everybody is employed. Like employment rates are very high right now, and the reason for that is because the economy has taken such a shape. What they did is उन्होंने जब reduce कर दिया tax rate को from 35%. Forget about all these progressive rates. Businesses play flat 21%. That's it. So 21% is quite low on profit. So what ended up happening is that businesses got more opportunities, right? They get to keep more money. So then that way they are flourishing. They get to hire people, right? So that was one of the biggest achievements for the business side that they did in 2017. So that's why you see US economy until now, no matter how much you try to bring it down, to try to create unemployment, to try to slow down, it's just not happening. It will happen. Not that it will not happen. It will happen. It will slow down later this summer. But it's hard because it's very strong right now. So who has to file? Basically, if you're in the US, you have to file. But if you have any foreign subsidiaries, take any big giants, take any small companies that are US based, they have subsidiaries abroad, right? When you have subsidiaries abroad, आपने उधर की profits वगैरह सब कुछ report करना है. You have to make sure that you've paid. That's why the next slide में GILTI करके tax आएगा. That they said that if you have any profits, if you are parking any profits abroad, you want to make sure you have paid tax over there. पहले क्या होता था कि a lot of companies, because it's cheaper labor force in foreign countries, more investing opportunities, more resources, they used to be abroad. Apple, you take any company, I don't want to mention names, right? Apple, let me just mention Apple, Google, कोई भी बड़े पकड़ लो. They're all there. Even small businesses are over there, and whatever profits they make, the profits stay over there, and those profits stay over there tax-free. You only pay tax when you're bringing it here. So US was losing out on that. So US said, no, if you're a US entity and you are in the foreign country, जो भी profit हुआ उधर, we want to make sure you have paid tax over there, at least 21%. अगर आपने उतना pay किया है, so then you don't owe anything to us because you have paid tax over there. You're not trying to you're not trying to avoid taxes that way. But अगर आपने उतना नहीं pay किया है, तो we make you pay the difference. But you have to pay tax. We want to make sure you have paid enough tax. और ये रीजन इसलिए है कि कंप्लायंस में लाने के लिए all the money gets taxed appropriately accounted for, and then it helps with money laundering. It helps US track all the income, track all where the US shareholders are having interest in, and it helps them with a lot of government work, right? Counterterrorism measure वगैरह. So that was the idea with the businesses. And then we can go to the next one. I think the next one brings to important forms. ये दो apply करेगा. This really applies to people who are students and people who spend some time in the US, but they don't have major US source of income, right? जैसे मैंने पहले बोला था कि you cross that 183-day mark, you have a problem. Not a problem. You have a problem meaning you have to file a return. You can't go return free. That's the law. How much you follow it, how much people will track you, how much IRS will track you, it's an iffy matter, right? But you need to do it. So ये दो forms है 8840 और 8843. ये क्या हो जाता है 8840 basically closer connection exception. ये क्या होता है कि you tell you by filing this form, we don't need to go into the nitty-gritty of the counting of the days, but the idea is you're telling the government, okay, yes, I spent so much time in the US, I spent over 180 days in the US, but I did not have that much of income, and all my source of income, all my family, everything that I do, my residency is abroad, Canada, India, wherever it is. So that's called a closer connection exemption statement for aliens. That's the logic of that statement. Closer connection exemption, meaning exception statement, meaning, hey, listen, I'm here, but I don't have anything. So you just file this form, you tell the IRS, and you're done. Now, when you file this form, you don't have 1040 NR. You're telling the government that I don't have a 1040 filing. 1040 is your individual tax return form, and if you're a non-resident, that form is 1040 NR, 1040 non-resident. So in order to escape that requirement, you file this form, and then you're okay, right? That's the idea. So it's a nice thing. So because coming back to the like people are working towards making filing easy. Somebody thought of this, right? Like, hey, why file 1040 NR if there's nothing to show? Why don't we come up with something else? And they come up with something else to replace that. So that's the idea. And then 8843, that says basically people who are exempt and people who have medical conditions. So students, right? What do you do for students? International students, you definitely spend more than 180 days in the US. And I know this because I was one of them. I used to spend, naturally, I'm here, right? So then what do you do? So you can escape filing returns, and you can file this 8843 saying, I'm a non-resident of US for tax purposes. I don't have any other income. And I'm here more than 183 days just because, my classes are that long. I have to be here. So that's what you're trying to do. Typically, what I've seen in practice is students just tend to end up filing the 1040 or 1040 NR. Not even 1040, not even 1040 NR. You just file the 1040. The 1040 is the regular income tax return as if you are a resident. And the reason we do that is you get more refund back if you work, because students end up working on campus. So when you work and you get a paycheck, you get a W-2, you stayed more than 180 days in the US, just file the 1040, because then you can utilize your standard deduction and everything and get the full refund back. Because if you file a 1040 NR, there is no exemption, there is no deductions, nothing, right? 1040 NR is you do not belong to the US. Whatever money you earn in the US, you pay tax on it. No deductions. But if you file a 1040, you get to use the standard deduction, right? And a lot of people do that because you are here more than 183 days, so you are a resident. You don't have to file 1040 NR. You can file 1040, and it's legitimate. So that's more in practice. I wanted to bring this up just if there are any students who are there, who are on the call, or if you guys have who are parents and they have students who are in the US and they have this requirement. This is something to look into. It will be helpful, right? It's not something that you have to remember all the time, but it will be there. It will help you as a student. Now here, the next two slides I'm going to talk about. This is the business side of things, and then the next one is on the individual side of things. The biggest changes, like although I told you all the changes that the President Trump and the government made in 2017 regarding the tax law that affected 60 to 70% people, it made their filing easy. But what increased, right? So because you have to balance it. It's a seesaw. One side is better. What side took a hit So the side that took a hit is international side of things. As I said, they tried to bring everything together. They want to make sure all the taxes are properly paid. So what they said, any foreign business that has a subsidiary in the US, they have to file a form called 5472. That's on the bottom side. It's a return for any business that has a shareholder who is 25% or more owner of the entity, who is a foreigner, and they're owning a US entity. This form has to be filed and it has to be reported. Okay, they own it. If there's any transactions with them, you have to report the transactions. Failure to file this form, if you forget about filing this form, is very strict. It's $25,000 per form per shareholder. It's very very intense and it's very strict and it's very legitimate. It used to be $10,000 before. It's now $25,000. It's a very important form. Similarly, if you are a US business, this applies for a small business as well, right? Let's say you are a US. This does not only apply to big companies. It applies to anybody. If you are a small business in the US, let's say you have a consulting business, you're a contractor, but then you also have some business you're earning in Canada, let's say, and you open up subsidiary here. So if your US entity and Canada entity have relationship somehow, you have to file that form 5471 to report the income and expenses, pay the tax if it's needed to be paid, and disclose it to the IRS. And if you don't do that, it used to be 10,000, now it's $25,000 penalty. So these are two very important forms on the business side that has affected a lot of businesses and it has changed the landscape. Right? It's very very important, very very strict and very very important. These two forms. I'm not diving too much deep into it because maybe to a lot of people this doesn't apply too much, right? Even if it does, we can talk about it on a separate call. The thing that applies to you is on the next page. This is the most important thing. All right. Form, I'm going to 8621, and the first two line items are basically, let's talk about the second one, the Form 88, treaty-based return position, meaning US has treaty with about 160 countries, I believe, which when they do an income tax treaty, each country talks to each other. They say what we have in common grounds, and let's provide each other favorable tax rates to our citizens. So when you file sometimes a return and you're using a treaty position, for example, you used to live in US, you paid Social Security from your salary, right? Now you have moved to Canada. Now you live in Canada. You have retired, you live in Canada. US is going to give you Social Security income, right? Now, but you live in Canada, so you want to not, now Canada is going to tax you on Social Security income. So you have to pay tax US and you have to pay tax in Canada. So when you file this, we use this form, we file this treaty-based position saying, hey, listen, US, we live in Canada, we pay tax in Canada, please do not tax us. And that works. Same with Canadian citizens who have pensions in Canada, now they live in US. They tell Canada, please don't tax us because we're going to pay tax in the US. And then within each country, whatever the tax law is for pension income, that's tax applies. Like Canada does not tax Social Security if you have no other income. So US does not tax you, Canada does not tax you. But to escape US taxation because you live in Canada or you live anywhere, I'm using Canada because we are neighbors and I'm here. But you can use that and say, hey, US, आप मुझे tax मत करो क्योंकि मैं tax यहाँ पर pay करूँगा. So that's the form. You have to disclose that form. अब वो ये form आप नहीं डालोगे और ऐसे tax नहीं pay करोगे तो naturally IRS is going to send you a notice. You have not paid taxes. And then you tell them, oh, actually, I used the treaty. Well, बोलेगे तो आपने treaty का form file नहीं किया. So if you don't file that treaty form, that penalty is $10,000. So you need to do that. So that's something to keep in mind. छोटी चीज़ है, but just to keep in mind. वही फिर PFIC form number 1. These are two small items. Not it won't apply to a lot of people. The last two items will. So let's just clear the top two items. Form 8621, mutual funds. If you are a US citizen and you invest in mutual funds, passive foreign investment company बोलते हैं, not stocks, but mutual funds. And if you have foreign mutual funds, right, this will apply to some people who might have mutual funds abroad in India, Canada, anywhere. You need to file a form 8621 and you need to disclose the PFIC income on that. And depending on क्या method, it gets very technical in terms of क्या methodology आपने use की उस PFIC के लिए, you pay taxes वगैरह, you get exempt, जो भी है. But you need to file that form and disclose that you have a passive investment. And one of the most classic passive investment example is mutual funds. It does not apply to stocks. If you have income, regular stocks, if you have ETFs, वो सब में आपने PFIC का फॉर्म नहीं भरना है. आपको फॉर्म भरना पड़ेगा 8621 when you have mutual fund investments. Very, very important form. Okay, and they're getting very strict about this form these days. So to keep in mind. Okay.
So, Ronak, one question for this one. You mean to say that this form needs to get filed if we are having mutual funds in India?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You have to. If you have in regular investment account and that investment account puts into mutual funds, right? You need to disclose each mutual fund that you hold, right? You need to disclose that financial. You have to. You should. You absolutely must. So and again, you have to review your situation, kya tha, kya nahi, and then you take it from there. But this form is important.
Okay.
It used to be that they were not too strict about it because they had a lot of other forms, and lot of they used to have difficulty catching up with a lot of other items. This
Okay.
form has been there since 1986 when President Reagan passed the new law in 1986. It's there since then, but it was just not being followed because there's so many other forms, so much to catch up that it was not being paid attention to. But now that things got a little simpler, besides COVID, yeah, form is back into play. So you need to be careful. You need to pay attention to that, right? Yeah, form, and then now the two big guns, right? Form
So,
114 and Form
Ronak,
898.
even like as Avinash asked, is it like even you hold, like currently I hold, and I know Avinash, we do that. So just to reporting purpose, we have to do this 8938 form, or even there's no, like I have not sold anything, for example. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah, no, yeah, yeah, it doesn't matter. So I'll go into details and another I can go with you. 8621 में क्या होता है? It's literally for holding. It's passive investment holding. अगर बेच दिया ना आपने, कुछ भी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन हुआ ना,
हाँ,
बेचा खरीदा, वो तो आप स्केड्यूल डी पे आपके कैपिटल गेन्स में तो रिपोर्ट करोगे.
right.
But for whatever holding you have and that holding went up or down, you have to report that here. And depending on what type of a PFIC it is, because PFIC में जब इसको PFIC बोलते हैं शॉर्ट में, passive foreign investment company जो है, it's called PFIC, उसका acronym. So depending on the type of PFIC you have make it, yeah, there are 4 types of PFIC you can make, right? So depending on what you're qualifying it as, you have to apply, you have to report in that category, and then tax could be due on unrealized gains.
Okay.
So depending on what type of it, so you have to review and you have to make an election. So first of all, if you have not filed previously, you have not made any elections. This will be your first year making an election. So you'll have the option to figure out what kind of election will be beneficial to me. So that has to be reviewed and done that way. And you do it in such a manner, pick one. IRS doesn't have any problem. You pick one, but then you stick to it. You cannot change. For that particular PFIC, for that particular holding, that choice that you made remains till the end. Okay. Now comes Form 114 and 8938. This is basically taken sleep of everybody pretty much for the past 10-15 years. IRS came and same thing. These forms have been there since 1986, but it was not paid too much attention to because of other items. But since 2010, it has brought a prominent attention to this. The reason behind these two forms is money laundering, counterterrorism measures, and accounting for all the income that is outside, that is held by the US citizens and residents, which US does not know. Pre 2010, they did not know because there was no there was a requirement, but there was no legitimate follow up in terms of where the money is. So in one shot, 2010, US came with this law, started enforcing this law. They're saying, listen, anybody who is a resident of the US, right, or citizen of the US, if you are holding more than $10,000 abroad, and $10,000 not on $10,000 balance, not on December 31st, at that balance, if it hit at any time during the year, you need to report that bank account number, address, and the highest balance that it was there for the year. We need to see that. And for the ones you cross that mark, every account needs to be reported. So let's say you had $10,000 in one account and you had $2 in another account. You have to report both accounts because you've already crossed the 10,000 mark. So not only accounts that have $10,000 or more. You cross the global total aggregate amount. You cross the 10,000 mark, you report every single account. Any interest or dividends or anything that you earned on that account, you have to report it under interest income. In your, when you know how you get 1099 interest from Bank of America or for Chase for whatever money interest you earn, in the same category, you have to report foreign interest. So if you have it by the bank, you break it down by the bank. IRS will give you credit for any TDS you have. Any tax that you paid abroad, you'll get a credit for it, but you have to disclose the income that you earn on that account in the US, and you have to pay tax on it. So two things happens, right? आपने फॉर्म 114 फाइल करना है, जिसमें अपना हाईएस्ट बैलेंस दिखाना है कि क्या था पूरे साल का, बैंक नेम, एड्रेस, अकाउंट और हाईएस्ट बैलेंस, और उस अकाउंट में जो भी अर्निंग हुई वो अर्निंग आप रिपोर्ट करोगे अपने टैक्स रिटर्न में. ये फॉर्म अलग है. फॉर्म 114 इज अ सेपरेट फाइलिंग है. It's not part of your 1040. So when you e-file your return using a software, you will see two e-files going, 1040 and 114. Naturally, you file them together, of course, but they're two separate items. Okay, it's not part of your income tax return. Any income that you earn in that account, that becomes part of your income tax return. वो तो interest income में चला जाएगा, right? That's the idea. So failure to file that form is $10,000 penalty now. But IRS encourages, because पिछले साल they wanted to go up in 2010. They had the voluntary disclosure program, and since then it's still on. You have to go back 7 years and correct everything. Now the going back 7 years is gone. Now basically taxpayers will have penalty if they have not previously filed. Period. You could apply for something called voluntary disclosure program. You apply, you write a letter to the IRS saying, circumstances under which you did not realize, you just came up about it. They review your case and they allow you to report it. And you can go back 3 years. Right? You fix your 3 years worth of return, you do the analysis, you file the return, amend your return, and file this form and catch up. And then every year, apne file karna hai. So question comes now, how to approach it is all in the individual basis, right? Whether you need to go back, you don't need to go back. Whether you should do going forward, right? All those things comes into play. But ideally, you always should, because you need to catch up. You have to. This is important. And the reason this becomes important, because now, maybe you must be seeing on TV a lot of advertising everywhere. All the banks are sharing information. So US gets information from the foreign banks, and foreign countries have also applied the same law. They get information from the US banks, so they know who their citizens are and what kind of money and what kind of balances they have. So it's better to come forward and disclose it. Makes your life much easier.
Ronak, one question for this FBAR form, FinCEN.
Yeah.
Is it like we need to consider all the income, right? Like from mutual funds or from bank and everything in this FBAR?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's a total.
Yeah, FBAR will not take
care of it. If we cross that threshold, then we need to file this FinCEN.
Absolutely. You cross 10,000. So financial securities account. So if you have a rental property, if you have a rental land investment, that doesn't count. That will go somewhere else, right? That is a land you report on the rental property, land and residential rent that you're getting. This is only financial security. So bank accounts and stocks, stock market, stock accounts that you have.
Mutual funds and
mutual funds. Any income you have, any capital gains, everything that gets on your 1040. But here, you're only reporting highest balance of that during the year.
So debt, equity, and mutual funds.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Right. And then this brings up a little bit of technicality of the form 8938. 8938, it says specified foreign financial assets is the same exact thing as 114. But now the question is, if your balance is going over 50,000 at the end of the year, or $75,000 during any time during the year, you have to file this form. Same exact rate, but now over there in FBAR it was 10,000. Here is 50 and 75, right? 50,000 on December 31st, or 75,000 at any time during the year, right? This form needs to be filed. Same exact disclosure. The difference is this form is part of your 1040. There's no separate filing. It's part of your form 1040. When you file 1040, this form will pop up at the back. So this goes to the IRS. And if you're married, if you're filing married joint, the numbers double. So if you had 100,000 at December 31st, or 150 at the end of the during any time of the year, the two items double. That's why it doubles on this side, not on the 114, because 414 is individual.
Makes sense.
Right?
So this is Ronak. This is, you meant to say, like, it is cumulative of, like, whatever in FBAR you said 10,000 and here you talked about 50,000.
Yeah.
It is a cumulative, or any bank once it is crossed 10,000 limit?
No, cumulative. So if you have total of we'll address the 10,000.
Maybe I have 2 accounts or 3 accounts, and
Yeah.
all together maybe I'm crossing 12,000. But in one of the account I'm not exceeding more than $5,000. In that case also it has to be applied.
You have to report the moment if you cross the 10,000 mark aggregate. If one account has $9,000, other account has 9,998, other account has $2, both needs to get reported. Or
Okay.
one crosses $10,000 and the second account has only $5, that report gets reported.
Okay. One
Aggregate.
more thing on this, you talked about that interest part, right? Joint global reporting, right?
Yeah.
So what if, like, in my case, again, I have an account with my mom, but she files taxes, all the interest and everything back in India, right? But
Right.
I'm a joint holder. So what I normally do is, uh, I don't show any interest earned in that account. Let's say if SBI have account and she files that, because she is the primary owner, I'm the secondary
Right.
owner of that account.
Right.
So is it good to do that? Because I have never think in this direction, because she reports there and I don't report for that bank, but I
No.
do it
So
for all the banks.
yeah, in that case, since you're a joint holder, so that in your situation, things are applying. She is the primary, and is she the primary operator of that account across the board?
Yes, yes, yeah,
You
yeah.
don't do anything with it, correct?
Yeah, she is the we have joint account, but she is the primary. So I just do transaction on her behalf. But any income, any FD or any
Right.
interest income
Right.
happens, we file it on her income
That's right.
tax. I don't file it on any
So
earning.
in your case, what ends up happening, you don't report the interest income. It's fine because it's your mom.
Yeah,
What you need to do is you need to file the FBAR form, because FBAR form is
yeah.
like
I
you have
report
authority.
that FBAR. Yeah, I
You
report that FBAR. Yeah,
you do report the FBAR, and
yeah.
you basically you have to report in the section where you say you are a signatory on that account. You don't have financial interest, but you are a signatory on that account. You can file it that category, because the moment you put financial interest, then you have to report your portion of the interest income here.
Okay. Okay.
Technically you should, right, because you are a joint holder. So even if you
Right.
don't use it, you are you're owner of that account, and your portion of the interest should be reported under yours, and she should report her part. But
Okay.
the way around it, I was going to say, because she is your mom, not with anybody else, because it's a parent-child relationship, it's understandable, the logic behind it. So then what will happen is that you are a signature authority on that. You have authority to sign on that account, but she basically is operating, maintaining, and utilizing that account for all economic purposes. That's the only way to go around it. And it's not even go around it. If a question comes, that will be a question. That will be your answer. But if you go by the law, you are a joint holder, right? You are a
Yes.
joint holder of that account. You need to report the highest balance. You need to mention her as joint holder, and you need to report your portion of interest income on the 1040 here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Generally, I
yeah,
think one thing I've seen is
we
like,
need, we will hold that question answer sessions
yeah, yeah,
after these
fine.
two slides. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Perfect.
sure.
We come back
Thanks.
to it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so these are the two. These are the FBAR, and then now, as I already talked about streamline in the previous slide. The idea is that amnesty. They call it amnesty filing, right? Amnesty meaning, hey, listen, I'm coming forward. I have not filed the FBAR forms. I did not know. I did not know doesn't work. Legitimate idea is because it will be I do not know because you really had low balances and you were not aware of it, right? People with very very high, like if somebody is holding over $500,000, let's say, or over $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, generally the I don't know doesn't work. You need to know, right? It's a decent amount of there's no way you did not know, right? You did not forget the earnings of it, right? So how did you forget the filing of it? So that does not work. But for some small amounts, like you really did not, and some legitimate reason, medical reasons, you could not come around it, works. IRS allows you to go back, do your 3 years returns, amend them, report the interest income, dividend income, one stock sale that you had, file your FBAR amount, file your FBAR for 6 years, right? There will be no penalty if as I said, if the failure to file was non-willful, right? And this where so people, because now people who are getting rid of their citizenship, they're renouncing their citizenship. How does that apply? So that it gets into technicality. Hey, listen, I was supposed to until then, but after that, I renounced my citizenship. I did not know that when I was citizen, I was supposed to do this. So all those things come. And so whatever reasons you have, people came across this situation. A lot of people left the U.S. citizenship. Then they realized that while they were citizens, they were supposed to file. What do they do? Yeah, so, but it gets really technical. But the general idea you guys get that if you have over $10,000, file your FBAR, show the interest, dividend income on your return, and call it a day. Makes your life very easy, right? That's the idea. And then we can one final item we want to talk about is the deadlines, right? Basic idea is typically to keep in mind. I've written all the forms. Typically, the US follows calendar year. Everything is January, December by default. and then you can make it fiscal if you want for business side. You can't do it for personal. For business side, you can make it fiscal if you want. Let's say some business, you operate in US, you operate in India. India goes by April to March year. So you can make your fiscal year April to March, so you're in line with India, depending on what it is, right? Or depending on whichever country you're in. Tanzania, fiscal year is June ending, so you can make it in line. So whatever you want, you basically then turn accordingly. And usually the deadlines are, typical deadlines are 15th day of the 4th month, right? So that's why December ending calendar year, our tax deadline is April 15. The logic April 15 came with, because that's how they defined it. It was not let's they came up with April 15. The way they came with April 15 is like it should be 4th month. It should be the 15th day of the 4th month. And the reason being, because of the all these deadlines came because of the farmers, because the economies used to be farming economy. Why do we vote on November 6th? Why is it the first Tuesday of it? So we always vote on first week of November. Always. Any election is on the first week of November, first Tuesday. It's because everybody finished farming, everything is stocked up. Now winter is here. There's no more farming, so everybody can go vote. That's why elections are always on the first Tuesday of November. So same way with tax deadlines. This April 15 came up because that's the time everybody actually will be able to take the first harvest is done. They can go file it. So then, of course, a lot of people could not make it. A lot of people don't make it. So in the 60s, or I think it was 60s, I'm not exactly sure, but they came up with this concept of extension. You did not get your data by April 15, you need time, no problem. You file for an extension. You have to file for an extension, and then you get 6 months. And then your date gets moved to October 15. So if you look at the bottom, third form, like 1040, April 15, October 15, right? If you're a non-resident of the US, your deadline is June 15. So this applies to US citizens as well. If you're a US citizen living abroad, your deadline is June 15, not April 15. And then if you get an extension, then your deadline gets moved to December 15, right? FBAR also, because they need to align it. Before FBAR used to be a June deadline, but now they made it together. So it's April 15. If you file for an extension, it goes to October 15, right? Businesses form 1120, the main corporation form, is also April 15. So everything is in line, right? These used to be different dates. They made all these changes starting 2017 and 18. So everything is in like almost, they're trying to align all these returns together. So second line from 1120, it's April 15. And then you get 6 months, it goes into October 15. 1120F is a treaty-based return, which we don't need to go too much detail into it. I think it doesn't apply for too many people, but it's a form for foreign business operating in the US with no US presence. And their deadline is also April 15, followed by June 15, followed by December 15. If you're a partnership, you have partnership interest. The deadline is the 15th day of the 3rd month, and then it goes in March 15 and then September 15. The reason partnership deadline is March is because businesses and individuals have investment interest in partnerships. Partnerships gives you K1. K1 is the equivalent of a 1099. So if you're getting any interest dividends from a bank gives you 1099, correct? If you're getting any income, interest, dividend, or any business profits from a partnership, they give you a K1. So K1 1099, same exact forms, is just two different names, because K1 is given to partners. So sometimes also when you do investments, you receive K1s as well, because the company which you invested in is structured as a partnership. So you end up getting a K1, but it's just an equivalent of a 1099, right? But the reason that's supposed to be done by March 15 is so that by March 15 you file your return, and then you give K1 to your partners and shareholders so that they can go and file their return by April 15. If partnerships gives you K1 on April 15, how can you file your return on April 15? It's hard, right? So that's why the partnerships give you K1 on March 15, and then you have a month to file your return by April 15. And then, of course, extension kicks in, right? The partnership is too big. They could not finish it up. They file 6 months extension. They get until September 15. So then the related partners also have to file extension and go into October 15 because they don't have a K1. Now, these extensions are just for filing. Filing के लिए आपको 6 महीना मिलेगा, but your tax due is due on April 15. So it's your responsibility to compute the tax that you owe by April 15 and pay all the tax that is due. If you don't do that, there is failure to pay penalty, failure to file penalty, failure to pay estimated, all kinds of penalties kick in, right? So you have to make sure you have absolutely paid all your taxes by April 15, but you can file later on if you have the legitimate extension. So that's the logic with the deadlines, right? And after that, we go to the next one where it says questions. So I guess we can dive into Q&A. I hope it was not too much, and I hope it was informative in a manner कि आपको भी ये याद रहेगा. Okay, it doesn't matter. You don't have to remember the technicalities of it, but if you have the process in mind, now the idea is hopefully you can do your returns in a very nice and smooth manner, whether you use softwares, whether you use advisors. My idea with the software is basically अगर आपका return बहुत straightforward है, जहाँ पर आपको ना एक दो 1099s आ रहे हैं, W2s आ रहे हैं, it's very straightforward. You can use with the software. But when technicalities come, K1s आ रहे हैं, rental properties है, FBAR आ रहा है, then I think you're better off going to an advisor. Not trying to make a safe speech to anybody, okay? I'm not. You should not. That's not idea. Idea is for your own comfort. Because क्या करेंगे ना, ये forms इतने complicated हो जाते हैं ना, you make mistake, then you're exposed to that penalty. Now, if you have a valid reason, IRS will help you abate and waive the penalty. Not a problem. It might work for you. But the problem is it's additional headache that you're going with. That to solve that headache is much more difficult than just having the advisor do it, and they can do it very nicely, right? And it's smooth for them. And so that's the idea with that. But by all means, for majority of the people, self-filing software is perfectly fine. You keep using those. They have become also more and more informative. They work for you as well, and I think it works. Idea is behind it. You should know what you're filing. TurboTax and other softwares, they do it like they have this question answer system. So it's as if you are playing a game, right? They ask you, hey, did you have this? Did you have that? You keep doing it, and you're playing that game, but you only playing it, but you're not understanding why you're doing what does it mean, right? That was the idea today. Understand why you're doing what you're doing, so then it will be very easy for you to file, and you'll be able to ask proper questions.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, Ronak, for all the detailed information and all this nice presentation. So now we are opening the floor, and I think Vijay can go first, and then Prajakta can go next. Vijay Kale.
Yeah, sure. Ronak ji, thank you so much. This is very enlightening presentation. और एक कॉम्प्लीमेंट है, इतने साल बाहर रहने के बाद भी आपकी हिंदी बहुत अच्छी है. और आई एम श्योर તમારી ગુજરાતી भी સારી છે.
ઓ ગુજરાતી છો?
ગુજરાતી નથી, ગુજરાતી આવડે છે.
ઓ ગુજરાતી, yeah, of course, yeah. મહારાષ્ટ્રમાં ગુજરાતી ચાલે, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so question is form 8621. जो हमें जो भी हमारे इन्वेस्टमेंट है, स्पेशली म्यूचुअल फंड्स है और शेयर्स है, राइट? और उसके बारे में हमें लाइक डू वी नीड टू इन्फॉर्म द एक्चुअल इन्वेस्टमेंट नंबर्स और अनरियलाइज्ड गेन्स आल्सो? आई वाज नॉट क्लियर. आपने एक्सप्लेन किया, लेकिन आई वाज नॉट क्लियर ऑन दैट.
This is literally for unrealized gains. This is ये फॉर्म होल्डिंग्स के लिए ही है. जैसे मैंने पहले सो टू रिपीट, अगर आप द मोमेंट यू सेल, आपने बेच दिया, तो वो तो आपके स्केड्यूल दी पता है ना आपको, जहाँ पर कैपिटल गेन्स रिपोर्ट, तो वो तो वहां पर रिपोर्ट हो जाएगा, बिकॉज इट्स डन, इट्स रियलाइज्ड. तो वहां पे पीफिक नहीं आएगा. पीफिक इज ओनली फॉर होल्डिंग्स दैट यू हैव. Because when you're holding, IRS is saying, because the idea with mutual funds, so IRS is trying to not discourage, that's not a good word to say. Nobody is trying to discourage anybody, but the idea is they don't work. अगर जरूरत ना हो ना, तो यूएस का पैसा बाहर नहीं जाना चाहिए. Each country is trying to do that. अपना पैसा अपने देश में रहे.
Right.
Mutual funds क्यों? Why not others? Why mutual funds? Mutual funds इसलिए क्योंकि mutual funds का ऐसा है कि पूरी दुनिया में mutual funds is one of the most tax efficient way of investing and most easier way of getting exposure to lot of investments, right? आप इंडिया में बैठे बैठे किसी म्यूचुअल फंड में डाल दिया आपने, वो पैसा, वो म्यूचुअल फंड अभी अब्रॉड के मार्केट्स में इन्वेस्ट करेगा, बट आप इंडिया में उसकी इनकम अर्न कर रहे हो. सो दैट इज फैंटास्टिक, इट्स द बेस्ट वे टू इन्वेस्ट. वही चीज यूएस भी बोलता है कि यार आपको एक्सपोजर इंडियन स्टॉक मार्केट में चाहिए, कि कैनेडियन स्टॉक मार्केट में चाहिए, कि अफ्रीकन स्टॉक मार्केट में चाहिए, वी हैव म्यूचुअल फंड्स हियर. आप इधर से डाल दो ना, क्यों पैसा बाहर भेज रहे हो, राइट? जस्ट इन्वेस्ट इट फ्रॉम हियर, वी वांट आवर फंड्स टू गो. बट व्हेन यू गो ओवरराइड दैट and say, no, I'm still going to go there and I'm going to do it, the US ka angle pakarta hai, well, then that means you're trying to go you're trying to not pay tax to us, right? That's what your logic is. So hold on, we are trying to not penalize you, but we're trying to increase this requirement to you. You need to do this. Agar aapne mutual fund bahar dala hai, so we want to say how much unrealized gain you have, or wo gain pe depending on the type of mutual fund you have. Just maine bola ki that 4 types of election you can make. Qualified election, QEF bana do usko, mark to market bana do usko, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन मेथड बना दो उसको. ये 4 मेथड है जो आप इनिशियली सिलेक्ट करोगे कि हाउ यू वांट टू बी टैक्स्ड ऑन इट.
Okay.
एक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन वाला मेथड है ना, वो क्या है, एवरी ईयर एज यू गो जो भी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन मिला आपको उसके ऊपर आप हर साल एज यू गो टैक्स भरते जाओगे.
Okay.
राइट. तो जितना टैक्स भर दिया उतनी आपकी बेसिस बढ़ गई.
Okay.
आप हर साल करते ही जाओगे, पे एज यू गो.
Mm-hmm.
राइट. एंड टू कीप दैट, if you qualified election fund, उसमें सिर्फ you will be taxed at capital gains rate for your capital earnings and ordinary rate at your ordinary earnings within that mutual fund. जो mutual fund ने earn किया वो आपको QEF report देगी. So a lot of this QEF, all these reports have not hit India yet. I don't think so. Too much reports you get, so you have to do your math on your own.
Oh, okay.
So that increases further complexities, right?
Mm.
So, but it's a requirement. You need to compute that and you need to report here. So then IRS will tax you based on your unrealized gains that you had in that year. जो capital gains है वो capital gains tax rate में किए जाएंगे, जो ordinary gains है वो आपकी ordinary rate पे tax किए जाएंगे.
Okay, but that means like उसके जो unrealized gain है उसका benefit ना लिए बिना भी next year हो सकता है वो जो unrealized gain है वो जो कम उसकी amount कम हो जाएगी फिर भी लेकिन we are paying tax on that.
नहीं, तो अभी जो कम हो जाएगी ना, so there is no carry back, is always going forward. So ये साल आपने टैक्स पे कर दिया, आपकी बेसिस बढ़ गई, राइट. अभी नेक्स्ट ईयर जब लॉस आएगा ना, वो लॉस आप रिकॉर्ड करोगे, उसको क्लेम नहीं करोगे, बट नेक्स्ट ईयर जब इनकम आएगी ना, वो इनकम इस लॉस से कम हो जाएगी पहले.
I see, okay.
राइट. तो ये साल आपने टैक्स पे, ऐसा होता है, बहुत बार होता है. इस बार बहुत कमा लिया, अभी नेक्स्ट ईयर अभी मार्केट क्रैश हो गया ना, अभी यही प्रॉब्लम होगा. 2021 में द मार्केट वाज सुपर हॉट. 2022 everything crashed. So I've seen people got heavily penalized. इतना ज़्यादा टैक्स पे कर दिया 2021 में, and then 2022 now they lost their, because everything they are on pay as you go method. So you have to suffer that, and then when your market comes back up, all those losses you will try to recoup against those gains. Future. So IRS basically gets their money. That's the idea. Right, as you go. And the logic behind the whole this thing is, okay, try to put in mutual funds over here. If you're just using mutual funds, why don't you do it here in the US? Because if you are putting in mutual funds within the US, you have no such requirement, right? It's only foreign passive investment companies.
Does LIC investments also come under this?
LIC, no, that will be insurance, so that will not, no.
Okay.
LIC, like
LIC,
there are
as long as
multiple
insurance.
policies, right? It's not only life health insurance, but it's like different policies also. Now
Yes, so
LIC
as long as it's insurance policy, you're fine. Insurance policy, not a problem. So India, for the PFIC laws, right? It majoritarily has applied to all the G7 countries. UK, Australia, Canada, Germany, right? It hasn't hit that India, because India has more technical investments, right? So US has not curved the law according to that. So we have not seen too many life insurance companies, life insurance investments being reported there. Because in life insurance component में क्या होता है कि you are getting cash value, and typically any cash value that gets paid tax on is when the cash value is realized. At that point you do. If there's any taxable component in India, you pay the taxable component here as well, right? On the life insurance.
Okay.
But it doesn't call it. You're fine if it's not under the PFIC yet, because it's not being properly addressed yet.
I have a question regarding the filing.
Yeah.
In India, I mean, our tax return will be filed after March.
Right.
Now we have to file it here.
Right.
And I mean, it is here. It is from 1st Jan to December. In India, it is March to March. So then, how we will show? I mean, we are whatever we are making income in India, we're paying taxes to India.
Right.
So due to this difference in the time, how we are going to handle this issue?
It's a very common problem that I always face. But what you have to do, basically, the way to approach this, first of all, you have to get an extension, because your India return will not be done on time to file the US because of the deadline difference. So the current calendar, you have to get extension. Once the India return is done, that's when you file. And the way you do it, India goes on assessment year. Assessment year 21-22 captures tax year 2019-2020. Right? So the way it works, so to make it easy, forget the dates. To make it very easy, it will always be the first 9 months of the previous year and the first 3 months of the next year. You have to create a separate Excel to combine the income into a calendar year format. Your CA has to do it in India. So typical, a lot of my clients who have this sort of, it's a very common thing. I have seen so many times. So basically, I have to get the CA to prepare an Excel and they will take the first 9 months of the previous year, and then the first 3 months, the last 9 months of the previous year, and the first 3 months of the new year, and then combine it into a calendar year format. Same way you do for the taxes paid, that you have to prorate the taxes for the last 9 months of the previous year and the first 3 months of the current year. Combine them, you put it in the Excel format, you get the income and the taxes paid, and you take that income, you report it into your US forms, and you basically report that income, and then you get foreign tax credit for the taxes that you paid in India, but you still have to report that income.
So basically, in short, you mean to say get an extension, file the taxes in US, and then file the taxes. Sorry, file the taxes in India, and then file the taxes in US.
Because there's no other way out, right? Because India year is not over until your deadlines are coming. So you have to get an extension. You will not be able to file it on time or by April 15.
Okay.
Unless you really have very, very straightforward year, and the Indian year is done on March 15, and by April 10 you have all your data.
Yeah, it is difficult because there's a lot of TDS and all this stuff. It takes some time.
Of course.
So it's difficult to file the taxes in India by 15th.
Absolutely. India, typically they get it ready by July. So typically all my India people, my returns, so August, that's what I do. August, September, month of August and until mid-September.
Do we need to file, apply somewhere to get extension, or?
Yeah, you can do it on your own. You can do it. It's a very straightforward form. It's called Form 4868. If you just search extension, IRS extension on Google, it's the first PDF. You print that out. You put your social, if you're filing married, joint, like as if you return, right? You put your social in, you put your names in, you print the form out, put it in the mail. It's out. If there's any, you have to pay the tax. If the tax is due, you gotta pay the tax by April 15. So that check goes with the extension.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Next is Nayan Sarode is asking question. Nayan, do you want to raise your question? Or I can read it for you. Okay. I'm an international student, don't have income from fall 2020 semester 2020. So which form should I file? As our university has suggested 1042S 1099 W2, and also don't have SSN now. So do I need that as a document in the mentioned forms?
No, so 1042S, 1099, and W2s, these are the income statements. So these you get these forms when you earn some sort of income. So these forms you won't file; they will issue these forms to you. If you worked, they get you a W2. If you had interest income, dividend income, you get a 1099. If you are a foreigner who doesn't have a social who got interest and dividend income, it will be reported on 1042S for you. And then you take that form and then go and file your return. Chances are you did not receive any of these forms because you don't have a social in the first place.
Right, that's what he mentioned.
Right. So when you don't have a social, you won't have a filing requirement because you have no earnings, but you file that form 8843 as a student and just send it in.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. Next is Haribabu. Haribabu, would you like to raise your question?
Yeah, definitely. I can talk. So most of the post-COVID scenario and IT engineers majority work from home, and recently some are doing partially, some are still doing fully, and we are using our home resources for work.
Yes.
Like work from home, and a lot of resources, utility, phone, and our house space. From taxing perspective, definitely there are some things we need to consider, definitely looking some input.
Unfortunately, no. Problem is, sorry about that, but there's nothing there, because it used to be that employee business deduction. It used to be there under Schedule A, under your itemized deduction, you could claim all your home office expenses. If you're an employee, you could claim them on Schedule A under miscellaneous deductions with a 2% floating on it. What they did is they took out the home miscellaneous section. All expenses from home is gone. So now you cannot claim anything against it, because in return, they give you lower rate. They said, we're going to reduce your tax rate. We're going to increase the income brackets, right? More income at the lower rate. And we're going to make the Schedule A easy. So take out these deductions. So now, because of that, you cannot deduct anything.
Is this change for this year? Or?
No, it's like that. If it will have changed, it will have been for special deductions for during COVID, but it's not there anymore. For COVID, they gave charity. You could everybody could deduct 600. Even if you take standard deduction, you could deduct $300 for any charity work. But any work from home expense related were not, because they were supposed to be given directly from the employer. So instead of giving you expense deduction, the government gave you stimulus, right,
Okay.
to cover for all that.
But you can do it for business, right? For business, you can do it for business. Okay.
Business is different ballgame.
Right.
Got it.
Okay. Next is Tejaswini Thai.
Hi, thanks, Avinash Dada. Hello, Ronak.
Hello.
So actually, my question is, okay, I am here on visa. Okay, so if when my PPF account will get mature in next 1 year, so that PPF that amount is contributed when I was in India. So I didn't added any money from here. Okay, in that account. So that when it will get matured, that will also I need to share here.
You should, yes. You on what visa are you on?
I am on L2.
You on
L2.
L2, but so potentially, most likely, you're going to become a permanent resident. No.
It's not yet filed, but discussions are going on.
Most likely,
So
but for all
not
practical
yeah.
purposes, for all practical purposes, you are a U.S. resident, so you should file an FBAR, and when you're filing an FBAR, you should disclose the PPF amount. Absolutely.
Right, because in
Okay, so-
FBAR, they're
okay.
doing it under very broad umbrella. US citizen, you are resident, those who are working in US, everything needs to file FBAR, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Because the
okay,
thing is,
okay.
it used to be a lot of people in the beginning. We used to interpret it as permanent residents and citizens. That's it. Nobody else. All the
Okay,
H1
okay.
people who are. I used to be on H1 as well back in the day.
Okay.
So what do you do then?
Okay,
Now,
okay.
does it apply? But the definition for from the tax perspective is a U.S. resident is a person who stays in the U.S. over 183 days.
Okay,
So
okay.
if you're on
Okay.
H1B, are you supposed to file or not file? Well, technically, no. Should you? Yes, absolutely. Why not? Because you have the full intent of becoming a permanent resident. When I'm talking about H1B, I'm bringing in everybody. L2, L1, everybody.
Yeah, got it. Actually, my question was like, if I didn't contributed any amount from US and all the amount, whatever is there, it's from my Indian salary that time.
Right.
So still, I need to declare it. This is what you are saying.
You should declare it. The reason you should declare it, because FBAR is covering any financial account, regardless of when it was opened, when it was contributed. An account is there. So they just need to know highest balance in their account. And the other way to look at it is any place where you have financial interest, regardless of when it was contributed. If you have a financial interest and you are a resident, you should disclose.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Can you throw some lights on benefit having home loans and education? If we are paying for some university's fees, is there something we can do about the taxes and how we get some benefit?
Absolutely. For university, the tuition fees for your kids or for yourself, let's say, depending on, let's go with kids first. So if you have kids who are in college in the US at the age of 19 and 23, when you pay tuition for them, you do get a credit. There's an American Opportunity Credit and a Lifetime Opportunity Credit. I think it's 1,500 and 1,000 for a total of 2,500 or 3,000, something like that. Those are the most above, but you do get you get a 1098T from the college, and as long as the person is a dependent of yours, then you claim the deduction for the college tuition that you pay, and you get the credits for that. Absolutely, it's not dollar for dollar. So if you're paying $40,000 in tuition, you're not going to get that much, but it's about $2,000-3,000 for sure.
What about the home loans?
Home loans, the home loan is mortgage, right? So if you're paying mortgage, you get a mortgage interest statement from the bank, and that mortgage interest statement gets deducted on scheduling under mortgage interest. But if that mortgage interest plus donations plus property tax, if all that is over $25,000, then it applies. Otherwise, standard deduction will kick in.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm trying to understand. Then it needs, if it is more than 25,000, then we can file as a itemized deduction.
Yes,
Otherwise,
normally
it
all your
comes under
softwares,
that umbrella of a standard deduction.
That's right. And typically, all the softwares will pick it up automatically. It will always try to optimize, right?
Okay.
Where when you put the numbers, it just does the math in the background, saying, "Hey, itemized deductions is better, so we're going to take you to itemized deduction."
Okay.
So your software, any software you're working in, when you go, the question answer methodology, when you go there, you're like, hey, looks like you are eligible for itemized deduction. Would you like to upgrade? And then you upgrade, and then you have a Schedule A.
What about the insurance, term insurance, and term
No.
insurance?
Term insurance, nothing deductible. No, that becomes private. Same way, then your cash value. If you have a life insurance that is whole life, and you have a cash value for it, when that cash value matures, you're going to start receiving, and you're taking distributions from it. You are going to get a 1099R, and the cash value portion of the distribution will be taxable.
What about charity?
Charity is deductible, right? Charity you deduct on Schedule A. Donations you have.
Okay.
Is there any limitation or?
So charity, when earlier I spoke that it has a limitation that your total charity is limited to 60% of your income. So if you had $100,000 in income, adjusted gross income, the maximum charitable deduction for that year is $60,000.
Okay.
So if you gave away $70,000, you will get $60,000 deduction. The $10,000 will be carried over to next year.
Okay. Good.
So I have a question on the similar lines over here. By the way, I'm Rohit Kulkarni. By mistake, I joined from my wife's account.
No problem.
But when you have a home loan, and you just mentioned, right, like if when you go over 25,000 in terms of the interest, you can file itemized deduction because that will be beneficial. But what if you actually file kind of married but individual income tax returns? Now my standard deduction is 12,000, my wife's standard deduction is 12,000, and the loan is completely on my name. So I 12,000, and then let's say I have 25,000 or whatever interest, then I get more in terms of savings. So is that something that you can do?
So one of the disadvantages of married filing separately is one spouse has to do what the other did. So if you itemize, she has to itemize. If you standardize, she has to standardize. So if you go to itemize, you're going to get all the benefits. She's going to get hit.
Got it.
Because she won't have any other deductions.
Okay.
And to clarify more, it's not that you should have more than $25,000 in mortgage interest to claim. No, 25,900 is a standard deduction for married filing joint for 2022. For itemized deduction to kick in is first mortgage interest, second donations, third property tax and income tax on the state side for a maximum of $10,000. So $10,000 plus this two, whatever amount is, all these three together is over 25,900. Then itemized deduction will automatically kick in.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Vinith, would you like to ask your question next?
Yes. So I just typed in, but I think biggest eye opening on the FBAR. I think I have been doing it, and last 2 years looks like I was just checking my email. I have forget to file that. I used to declare for last several years, but last 2 years I have missed it. So is there any way, or just we had to choose option? Couple of options are there, and just file that. Is this as simple as it, or we have to take something into account?
No, depending on so your history will matter. If you already have a good history of filing, I think you should be okay.
Yes, I have filed for last, I think 13 till 2019 I have filed it. 2021 and 2022 I have missed it.
So we cannot say for sure, but chances are mom will forgive you. So I think you can go ahead but you need to go file the returns.
But I think if you are filing willfully and by yourself, I think then IRS is considering. That's what I heard majoritarily.
Yeah, somehow I missed that, but good to know. And one more thing on the FBAR itself, I think a couple of people have touched out on the, I think, what do you call, PPF. Now, it was not known to me, even the tax filer which I use, they never brought this point. They say, just report to the bank balance, and I think, I'm sure it is eye-opening for a lot of people here. But is it really we have to, as you mentioned, all the financial things except the term insurance and the health insurance, if you leave that part, anything investment we have, whether it's a stock, mutual fund, or Sukanya, or it is a PPF, or it is a pension plan, whatnot, everything has to be reported on FBAR, right? That's my understanding.
Yes. Over $10,000, yes. and you
Okay.
organize it, because I said you don't have to go and report every single stock. You report the holder of the stock, right? So if you have some holding with ICI Bank, some Maruti Investments, whatever. So you'll have the statement for the Maruti investment. Maruti investment, this account number, total value.
Okay.
Okay.
Next.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sure.
In
Thanks,
my case, actually, the amount is much less than $10,000, so I don't have to report that. But let's say I'm getting, let's say, 100 rupees interest. Would that has to be reported on 1040, and I have to pay tax on that?
You should, but
Okay,
I'll leave it to you.
got
Okay.
it.
Yeah. Next, Amlatai can go.
Thank you. કેમ છો રોનકભાઈ?
Oh, મજામાં. તમે કેમ છો? Oh, એકદમ મજામાં.
અમે પણ બધા મજામાં છો. Thank you very much. I know that much. I have a lot of Gujarati friends. So first and foremost, I really want to thank you for your time and expertise. It was a wonderful information you shared with us. So thanks for that. My question to you is, me and my husband, we always have been filing married joint status. But last year I attended school which cost me upwards of $50,000, and obviously when I was attending full time, I was not earning. So would it benefit me or us as a family if this time we file not jointly but separately? Would that reduce any taxes for my husband, let's say, because I had no income and on top of that I had expenses?
What will happen is because you are over 23, you cannot get American Opportunity Credit, but you will get Lifetime Learning Credit, which is about $1,000. But I believe it's a refundable credit, so I think you might file and you get $1,000 back because you have no other income. You might get back. I think it's refundable. I'm not sure if it's complete. If they made it non-refundable, it's a refundable credit. But what will happen is if you file on your own, your husband will be trouble is not the word, but his tax rates will go up, right? Because when you do married filing separate returns, you're applying individual rates, so his tax will shoot up, which will be much more than the $1,000 or the $1,500 that you're going to get back. So you're still better off filing it joint. And I believe there's a phase out. So if the income phase out is higher, that credit might go away, but that's still okay because you'll end up getting you'll be in a lower bracket compared to as opposed to filing separate.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I mean, that's pretty much what my husband already told me, but I figured I'll check with the expert anyway.
Absolutely. I think when you were going to school to get an education, which is that high, I think he educated himself as well. He said, we're going to go this way.
Well, he has crunched all kinds of numbers. Even when our children went to college, I guess most Indian families never, that FAFSA thing never benefits most Indian families. So he already knew the answer, but I wanted to check with him anyway. But thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Our extension of this one, we are filing jointly.
Yeah.
And till last year, my son and my wife were not earning. Now they are earning. So for my son, basically, for me and my wife, we can file jointly. But what about my son? Whether he needs to file separately or still we can file joint.
No, how old is your son?
He's 17-year-old. He's still dependent on me.
Now he's gonna file on his own. So he can be your dependent. He can still file on his own as well because the dependent exemption is gone now, right? So you will file him, claiming him as dependent, and you can get an exemption, but he will file and then he will not get a standard deduction, right? And he'll pay tax on that. So you have to do the math that if you keep him as a dependent, you get the $2,000 child tax credit, correct?
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was. Okay.
So that credit, if it's higher and your rates are lower compared to him, because the moment he files on his own, you now no longer get the child tax credit, right?
Right.
So you have to weigh that amount versus the income he earned and the benefit he's going to get. The difference that's going to happen is that if you keep him as your dependent, you will get the $2,000 credit. When he files on his own, he will mark as, hey, somebody else is dependent, and he won't get that standard deduction, I believe.
Thank you.
Okay. Rahul, you can ask your question.
Hey, hi, Ronak. Thanks for a very wonderful session. It clears so many doubts because sometimes we blindly file our tax, but this is really informative and we have to take care of so many things. So I have concern because in this group, most of the people are from a farmer family. So I have farming land in India and some my family is owning. So whatever income we are getting from that, and it's deposit into my account, so I have to declare that in US as well.
You should, because for you it's like what kind of income is it?
It's a farming income, means farmland, whatever we are
No,
selling.
so it's
in
rent
India.
or farming, I mean selling the products?
Yeah.
He's saying land selling also.
Not land selling. It's a farming. Means generally we have sugarcane and all these things, right? Onion farming.
Right.
So whatever income we are getting, it is getting deposit to our account. And when we are filing the FBAR, so we have to declare those NRO and NRE account both, right?
Yes.
And India, they won't charge for farming income. So, but US, does they charge? Means we have to file tax.
You have to. You're a resident of the US.
Mm-hmm.
So India will not. Now the farm itself, you don't have to declare on FBAR, right? The farm, like the value of the farm, it's not required. But the money that you have, so like in your case, it's more like a your portion, because you're not actively managing that farm. So that farm income for you is some sort of a royalty, some sort of a dividend, sort of a dividend income, something like that, right? Because it's a passive, steady income coming to you, right?
Yeah.
So you should call it some sort of other income on the return and report that money. Yes.
Yeah, because US is saying whatever money you are transferring from US to India,
Yeah.
you have to report that. That's why they have this FBAR facilitation, right?
Yeah, no, not only whatever you're transferring, even if you do not transfer, it was always there, right? Because you became a citizen or resident later, but you had money before.
But if this money, if I invested in land, right, from farming land, and I'm getting some income from that land, so I have to declare in US, because India is not asking to declare that income because it's a tax exempted.
Right. No, US you have to include. Yes, absolutely. It's not tax free in US.
Okay. Yeah.
Under other, you'll put it under other income.
Okay.
But Rahul, just suggestion: if you are filing in US, in US there is a Schedule F for farm income.
No, doesn't apply to him.
But it's not applicable, right? Because of farm is not in US.
It says US farm.
Yeah,
but he's spending money on farm in India. Can he put Schedule F with expenses in it?
No, it has to be a US farm, and he has to be active. So Schedule F comes if you're an active farmer. To him, this is like a royalty. He's not there.
No, his family is active farming family.
Family is absolutely. Family. So if he were to spend some time in India with this farming activities, some sort of time, then it becomes active income, right? So you can have like an active income against expenses against it, right? Over here, it's more like so unless I forgot, if that's what you're doing, Rahul, if you do end up spending some time in India and get involved in these activities, now it's more an active income. I will still not, you can still not use the Schedule F because it's not a US farm, but you'll put it in the Schedule C, active, some sort of self-employment income that you have. You have income for that, and you have expenses against it. Let's say travel, the trip that you take to India, anything that you do over there, you can again deduct all those expenses against that, and then you have a net profit, right? But when you do that, then you expose to self-employment taxes and everything. So it all depends on how much income you have and what is the most tax-efficient way to report it, and that's where you go.
Okay.
Thank you. I have a question for Rahul. Rahul, so the farm is on your name or your father's name?
Yeah, we both. It's on both name. Some land is on my name and some is on my father's name.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and actually, I bought it later. Once when I came to US, I invested some money in land as well, agriculture land.
So from the US perspective, it's an investment property.
Yeah, that's why I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because India is not asking to file.
India does not.
Yeah.
And the reason US does not honor that, because India is doing that for its own economic incentives for farmers' well-being, right? But that exact economic need is not there in the US, right? So that's why US does not recognize that. That's why US doesn't honor it.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think it's 12:55, so we will wrap up in next 5 minutes. So yeah, we will take few last questions.
Yeah, this is Amol.
Yeah.
So Ronak, thank you very much for session, and I want to thank you, Avinash, and whole Globalnagari family for arranging this session.
Sure.
Now, of course, you're spending your valuable time with all GNF family. So, if you wanna tell us, like, of course, everybody will be interested. Some of them definitely will be interested in filing taxes with you. So, do you wanna give maybe a ballpark estimate, like how much it will cost? And of course, everyone has different, assets and everything, so it will change. But maybe a ballpark number will appreciate. Thank you.
Absolutely. So typically the returns. So you basically deal with us. My firm usually is when you have extreme complexities, right? But typical returns, the way if you have basic W-2s, one state, or one state FBAR, your fees will range from 250 to 350 depending on what your situation is, right? One state W2 typically, 160, 170, 200, that's where it starts. Then you go to FBAR, and you gets into, depending on how many accounts you have and depending how much consulting we do, all that basically will make the, so we usually have to review your tax situation before we give you a quote. But as I said, for a basic situation, it will be very similar to what typically a market starts. This is US dollars, right? Not Canadian dollars. It will be in, so typically 160 onwards, it's what it starts. And then, it boils down to a complexity. On average, number of returns that we do usually starts at, $600, $700, because complexity, when complexity is needed. A lot of things I told you, when it's simple stuff, so my motto has always been that basically we don't charge you for anything that we don't have to do. So we always educate you. We take the time and educate you. You do it. It will be cheaper for you rather than us doing it, right? It's not worth for anybody. In the long run, it's going to crash. 3 years later, you're going to find out I could have done this on my own.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Amol. Okay. So if we, Amlatai, do you have any question? You still raise your hand.
No, I don't, but I'm not able to unraise that thing.
Okay,
Sorry.
no problem. Okay, here you go. Yeah, there is one Andy.
Yeah, I have a quick question for Ronak. Thanks for the session.
May I know your name, full name, Andy?
Andy Koziraski.
Okay.
So a good question for you, for cross-border workers, Canadian citizens working in US. So on 1040 NR, we can actually deduct taxes as on 1040. So deduction-wise, should an individual use married filing jointly standard deduction or filing separately? Because on 1040 NR, the married filing jointly option is not there.
No, 1040 NR is individual. You cannot file jointly. Joint filing is a US item.
Right. But when we use the TD-based filing, 8833 form, on that we have to show the. We are considered as Michigan citizens, right? So our people working in US, so we can use 1040 and do all our calculations, and all the deductions that we get there, we put that on 1040 NR. So should we use?
No. So let me ask a couple of more questions, okay? So a person who is in the US, that person has been in the US for the whole year, correct?
Yes.
You are not going to file 1040 NR. You will file a 1040.
Right, but I live in Canada and work in US.
You live in Canada, you work in the US?
Yep.
So what you should do is you file a 1040 in the US.
Yes.
You whatever taxes they charge, everything you do. Then you file your you live in Canada, then you file your Canadian T1 after the US return is done, and claim foreign tax credit in Canada.
So I do not have to file 1040 NR?
No, you don't have to. No. So typically that's what will happen. You're a non-resident of US, you're a resident of Canada, right?
Yes.
What you will do, because for practical purposes you are present in the US and all day, you just treat yourself a US resident. So you are treating yourself a US resident and you are treating yourself as Canadian resident.
Right.
So you're going full blown, right? You're going more conservative. But that being more conservative is giving you more benefits because you only ultimately pay tax in one country.
Right.
You'll pay in US, and for whatever taxes you pay in the US, you're going to get a credit in Canada for it.
So it's good to use 1040 because then I get more standard deduction.
Absolutely. Goal is to minimize taxes anywhere you are.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, I think Rajkumar Tambe.
Yes, thank you, Ronak, for this session. I was always interested in such tax-related uh, information. I was filing myself in India, but here I'm really getting. I mean, after you share details, it's more complex for me now. So, do we have to file these forms 8621 and 114 just for the reporting purpose, or will I get taxed on the money I have in India?
No. So first thing first, Saturday well spent, right?
Yes,
Instead of
yes.
yeah, very nice. So now the amounts that you have in India, you're just reporting highest balances. So
Okay,
you're just showing what you have abroad.
okay.
The tax that you're going to pay is going to be on the income you earn on that money.
So if I'm not getting any, I'm not redeeming those money, or let's say mutual fund I have, I'm not redeeming it. I'm just reporting, or I'm investing or continue investing in mutual funds, and I will have money in my saving account.
Right.
So I'm not earning a significant amount on that or
Right.
getting returns, right? But that will be there in those accounts like mutual fund accounts or my bank accounts.
So
So
mutual
what?
funds have to be analyzed and have to be reported on the 8621 to show the unreal, because 8621 is there to compute tax on the unrealized gains.
Right.
So even though you're not redeeming, because the moment you redeem them, it goes into Schedule D. But when you have not redeemed them,
Exactly.
it
Exactly.
has
I'm
to be
not
reported.
redeeming it, so that's why I'm. This forms are only for reporting purpose, right? I'm not getting taxed
You
here.
no, on 8621 you could get taxed depending on what type of income. So it has to be looked at and what methodology you're going to use to report them, and possibly you could get taxed. Yes, on 8621. On the FBAR form, you won't get taxed.
Oh,
Okay.
that's again okay. Okay, I'll
Thank
read
you.
more
Thank
about
you.
it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Amlatai, would you like to ask question?
Yes, quick one, Ronak bhai. So I believe I heard that the bank accounts these days are connected. So my parents here are green card holders.
Okay.
So they have been permanent residents for last 10 years,
Okay.
and they have farm income in India. They have farmland and what have you, other income there. But we have, or they have never received any inquiry from a US government for any, their income or anything, because they don't earn and they don't have any source of income in this country.
Right.
We have not really bothered to file their tax return.
Right.
But they have never been, they have never received any request for information.
That's right. And I'm not surprised. Like a lot of people don't. This is I don't want to be too critical of the US side. Right? But it's still a hit or miss thing, right? Not necessarily that everybody will get it, but you could get it, right? That's how it is. Or you could not get it. It depends. So it all how the system picks it, because maybe US does not have anything proper trail to come to that can connect. Like if they have farmland, there's nothing to report, right? There's nothing coming from India. There's no return being filed, nothing. So there's no way US can track it and get a closure on that, right? That's the idea. But
Okay.
I think they're okay.
Okay, and hold on your all India related questions, because we are trying to we are planning one more session with Indian chartered accountant, and also same time we are planning to get some Canadian counterpart, right, Ronak? Like
Yes, we're
from
going to
your
work on
side,
that.
so that we will club that session in our 11th March session, so that it goes hand in hand. So
Sure. Thank you very much. Thanks
right?
a lot.
So, yeah, so we are working on that, and then once the date is finalized, we'll roll out that flyer and schedule, and then we'll conduct that call. Okay, so I think we are done with the questions. Thank you very much, Ronak, for your time, energy, efforts, and synergy, and willingness to share this information with us. It's phenomenal, because people charge for this one, right? Honestly, saying people do charge for this activity, but thank you for coming and taking time to talk to Global Nagari families. And thank you, Global Nagari families, for being patient and then asking questions, relevant questions. So thank you very much. Kishore Lata Atya, would you want to say something before I conclude the call?
Hi, Ronak, and thank you really for your generous generosity of sparing your time, valuable time. We really appreciate it. It was a good lesson for me. I've never done taxes myself. My husband does it, but it was a good lesson for me. I learned quite a bit. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. No, and I'm really happy. I was happy. I had a good time as well. I'm happy with the session, and I'm glad you guys had a good time. You guys kept up with me, so that was good. I was not sure how it will all go, and I'm happy that you all had a good time. Saturday well spent, I hope. And we want to